help because the Board of Commissioners cannot advocate for people to vote for SPLOST, but how crucial SPLOST is to our county. But I wanted to tell you, based off the previous SPLOST, 5 years, which I've sort of been over, y'all done a remarkable job. You have, and your staff has. We're very fortunate to have you, and very fortunate for your staff to keep up with the numbers as well as they do. Good job. All right, if you don't know of anything else, you may be our quickest one of the day.
Oh, we got things. We got other things we got to be doing today. I got police.
You got to police?
We're shorthanded. They
All right. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, I'm sorry. Gentlemen, do y'all have any questions for Michael? I apologize. Sorry. The board may have some questions. I clearly missed it.
Sound good?
All right.
Y'all ready?
Gentlemen, if I forget, please just interject. Feel free. Ben Morris, IDBA.
He is on the way.
He's on the way. All right, so we'll just skip old brother Ben for a minute. Bobby Smith, EMS. I probably need to read these numbers as you come up. Our current SPLOST for the Sheriff's Department, because the media is here, they received $849,000, and E911 received $868,000. Total SPLOST anticipated over 16 years, over 6 years was 13.312 from the 2020 SPLOST. And for the newspaper purposes, he is asking for a 0.08 increase over his 2020 SPLOST. So I should have read that while he was standing there. I apologize. Bobby, go right ahead, buddy.
Hey, gentlemen, ladies. So the only thing that we really did, we added some stuff. The way that we've kind of done it in the past is SPLOST has been buying a truck every 2 years. General Fund has been buying a truck every 2 years. So that basically equates out to us buying a truck a year, one out of General Fund, one out of SPLOST. I increased that just to kind of decrease the overall tax burden to the SPLOST. So I added that to basically a truck a year coming out of SPLOST. That's up to you, gentlemen, if you want to go with that or if you want to stick to kind of what we've been doing as far as using General Fund to purchase one of those. That's been our game plan for the last 6, 7, 8 years at this point, is to basically buy a truck every year. We've gotten, like I said, with COVID and all those things, it's worked out to where it's basically we're buying 2 trucks every 2 years, but it's just because of supply. It's not because of we just haven't been able to get our hands on one a year. So, and we're in the same boat. We're now, me and the chairman went up 2 years ago in August to pick up the last 2. We ordered 2 more when we were standing there, and they were saying at that point it was going to be 3 years. They've moved that down after some fighting and arguing, and to where I think the plan is to get them in December of this year, so it'll be 2 years and 3-4 months or whatever, hopefully. But they say that timeline is going to decrease, but I have no faith in that process at this time. So that's it with the trucks. I added $150,000 a year for the station. The reason I did that is really we only have one new station. If you want to look at it, we have Comer. We've built Comer under the chairman and this board. But the whole station is over 20 years old now. It's had no real maintenance or upkeep or improvements, I should say, I guess. Danielsville is the same. It's about 23, 24 years old. And that building is even older. I don't know when it was built. We redone it, and Alan might be able to answer. I don't know, but
that was renovated when I first got here. It was the advanced behavioral.
Right. It was about
one of my first projects
ago,
28 years ago.
Right. So I know right before I came, they had renovated that Danielsville station. But like I said, it's a very old building beforehand. And then we still are currently housed in the Iowa station, which is fine. We have a great relationship with Iowa. There's no problems there. It's just we should probably plan for the future and plan for us having our own, county building. Not only that, it wouldn't surprise me at this point with the call volume and the increase in the number of just responses that we have, and it wouldn't surprise me before this plus is over that we're not looking at adding a new station. Our call volume in Colbert area is blown up just because of the increase in population, and so that'll be something that the board has to decide, several years from now, hopefully, but it's coming. So that dollar figure represents those increases in like just upkeep in the buildings, improvements in the buildings, and then possibility of funding a new station, whether it be Iowa at the time or another station somewhere else, wherever the board decides. The medical equipment. So generally with medical equipment, you got about 10 years. We're at the end of life with our Lucas. They are right now. They have come back within the last month or so and said basically that they're not going to PM in them anymore. So the parts that are out there is what we have available. Once those are gone, those are gone. We have Lucas 2s. They are now on the Lucas 3s. And again, they're at the end of life. So we're going to, in the next couple of years, hopefully they last that long, we're going to be having to buy some new Lucas devices. Monitors, I'm going to get too in the weeds with the monitors. We did purchase new monitors about 3 years ago. Again, I don't want to say too much publicly, but they've been a problem. I think that they're nationwide. They've been an issue. The monitors that we bought, it's no fault of ours. I can tell you at this time, Franklin County, Oglethorpe County, both bought the same monitors that we bought. Franklin has already sold theirs and taken a loss and bought another monitors. Oglethorpe has sold theirs at this point and leasing another option. So we're going to hang on. We're making do with the best that we can with the product that we were given. But it's a possibility that EMS may have to come to the board at some point in the near future and be like, we're at the end of it. We just can't make do with the equipment that we got.
Bobby, while you're on that topic, could you go ahead and put us some numbers together?
Yeah.
Just so we can be aware.
Yeah. So I can tell you now, the Lucas are $21,000 a piece. We need 5. So that's about 87. I think the quote I got was, if we bought 4 just to replace what we have and not adding another one, is 87, 139. The monitors are 50,000 a piece. Obviously that's 250. The stretchers are they're okay. They have not come to the end of their life yet. They have not told us that they're not going to maintenance them at this point. But we also got those in 2011, so they're at the end of their life as well. Like I said, I have not had any word yet that they're going to stop maintaining those or PMing those, but it doesn't surprise me. They're on a new model at this point, so when they do that, it's just a matter of time before the company comes back that, we don't have parts for it anymore, blah, blah, blah. And those are 30,000 a piece. So the power loads, I will go ahead and say that is at the bottom of your page there. What those are is they're a lock system that goes in the back of the ambulances. Once you pull the ambulance or pull the stretcher into the back, it locks it. It doesn't require any paramedic EMT lifting at that point. It locks it in there and motorizes it into the stretcher or into the ambulance. It's becoming the standard. It's not the standard at this point, but it is a want that we have. I'll go ahead and tell you guys that's a want and something that we want to get to. It's not required at this point. Not to say that it won't be by the time we get to the end of this, but that is truly just a want at this point. And it just helps with back injuries, with patient lifting. nobody's getting smaller, and our people tend to, at least at this point, are getting smaller. We're getting a lot more females, getting a lot more younger people, and they're a lot more, they're not as robust as, I guess, some of our, what we used to be.
Man, I guess I've seen a thing, and you can correct me if it's wrong, but said that like back injuries, especially in EMS and stuff like that, it's like the number one thing that takes out the
it is.
pit personnel and those loading and it's just the medical
It's just repetitive lifting, nonstop. We can't control the 300-pound patients that fall between the tub and the bathroom. You can't control that. That's the situation that we're going to deal with as long as EMS is around. You're going to have to get in very tricky situations and lift people out of positions and things that we just have no control over. That you can't help. So that's where, a lot of our back injuries come from that, but it's also the repetitiveness. We did away with some of that with the power stretchers. Just, you get them on there. Once you get them out of that position next to the bathtub, now we can get them on there and, it lifts automatically. Now we're just trying to get to another step of putting them in, locking them in the truck and then loading them themselves.
Haven't done that many years ago. I know that last bullet up in those trucks, they're not close to the ground. That last little bit is that extra strain that I've seen many people get hurt. I honestly, I've been over 21 years at this point, 22 years, whatever it is. I couldn't count on two hands how many people we've lost to back injuries. I mean, it's a part of the job, and any opportunity that I have to decrease that, it's my responsibility to do. So I support that.
On the back, I don't know if y'all saw 2 pages. I do have the EMA budget as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I put in for $75,000 a year. What I'm asking for with that is an emergency operations center, an EOC. That's something that not only EMS but 911, fire departments, the sheriff's office, the water department, transportation, that's something that everybody can use and be a part of. It's something that I don't know many counties around us now at this point that don't have an emergency operations center. And basically, to kind of explain that in a simple way is during a disaster or during an emergency that is ongoing, it can be used for a lot of different things, but during those emergencies, it's best to put the heads of all those departments in one room, and right now we just don't have that. Those situations are best managed, letting our people go out, run the event, us being in the same room, communicating with each other face to face, and running that emergency. And like I said, it doesn't happen often, but with all the storms that we've been dealing with recently, it would be nice to have a location that myself and Alan and the fire chief could go to and sit down and be like, all right, this tree's down here, the road department's going to run it. This one's down here, fire department's going to run it. All right, this was coming out, EMS can't get there, we need a road crew to go. It's a way to manage emergencies that we just don't have right now. Plus it's something that I think that could be beneficial for all of us. It'd be a nice meeting room, somewhere that we could all do training, somewhere that we could all do classes and meetings and things like that. I know that the fire department has plans. I have not talked to them about this, so I'll let you guys kind of decide how this is best work. But I know they have plans to do a classroom portion over the fire training. That could be used for both. That's something that you guys will have to decide, but that's something that could be kind of incorporated into that. We also have the space above the Comer station that's open right now. So that could be used for. There's options that it wouldn't cost a ton of money to include, but something that we could look at and need to look at for the future.
Thank you, Bobby. A couple of things that on here, I'm going to go back to the list, starting with top down truck request. So, gentleman our trucks have increased about $25,000 from 2 years ago.
Yeah. We paid $209 2 years ago in August, and they were $235 when we write the check this time.
Yeah. So the $250, again, we're just anticipating the market, but ambulances and fire trucks, we all know, has got completely outrageous. I just wanted the board to be aware of why those are $250 requests.
Yeah.
In case somebody asks, well, what did y'all pay last time? So
Right.
I made that statement.
Yeah. We paid, just so you guys know, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. The trucks, the chassis, just the chassis that we bought this time, no bed, they're basic stock work trucks.
Cabin chassis.
Cabin chassis was $77,000. So it's outrageous.
And that's the state contract
Right.
price.
Yeah.
$450.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this time, we actually had to go out on our own and get the truck to take to the manufacturer because they couldn't get the trucks. So we had to get 2 out of Kansas.
Yep.
And it was a nightmare.
It's been a fight the last couple of months, just trying to get trucks worked out.
So where you know here it says $250 a year, that's really $250 a truck.
It's $250 a truck. That's right.
Now, does that $250 include, or would it be, have to add to, like the notation at the bottom for the power loads, like if you're going to buy a new truck?
So, yes, so we can, if the board decided to, we could actually include power loads in that build, maybe a little cheaper, if we did it originally, just because there's some frame stuff that goes in the bottom of the floor or whatever that they have to do to support the power load coming in. So yeah, it's something that we could actually build into the trucks that we next buy. So it may actually be able to get it cheaper if we did that, buying it actually coming in the truck already.
That seems a bit, it'd be an appropriate time if we need to gradually get there, it's just.
That would be how to do it, yes, sir.
You might have folks fight about who gets a new truck, but.
Yeah.
We'll let you wear it.
That's right.
Bobby, on that, because Commissioner Dosser said that, what is the oldest truck we're running now and roughly the miles on it?
A 13 model, and I believe it's, Alan, you remember, 300,000, right at 300 and something thousand. I don't remember right off the top of my head. I know that we have, so Med 1 is the oldest, and it's a 13. Med 3 and Med 4 are the second oldest, and they're 14. So they're four of our trucks are just stair step. I mean, they're 1, 3, 4, and 7 are all within a few years of each other.
Do we have any in the pipeline right now?
Yes.
I've got 2 to be scheduled to be picked up in December.
In December, okay.
The chairman knows, but we've been in a lot of talks about these last 2 that we've had to buy. But yes, they are planning. They promised us that they're going to be here next week.
All right, Bobby, thank you, sir. I don't have any more questions, gentlemen.
What does the Lucas device do?
Oh, okay. So the Lucas device does compressions for it. So what they found back in, I think it was 2010, they started realizing that the chest compressions that we do are just not as sufficient as what mechanically could be done. So the Lucas is actually a device that goes on. It has a suction cup that basically sticks to the chest, and it does mechanical CPR for you. So it just not only does it push down, but it pulls the chest up and allows for air expansion and somewhat, gas exchange. The survivability. I'll tell you guys, with the changes that we made as far as with dispatch and some of the sheriff's office and having them go out and do CPR and the dispatchers walking through the family doing CPR and the Lucas and some of the medication changes, our survivability out of cardiac arrest, and now this is going to change it, but in April we had it was 60%. The national average is ridiculous. It's 5%.
Wow.
So I mean we've done a lot of things, and Lucas is just a part of that. But yeah, it's made a big difference. We've saved a lot of people.
Can I top off on that? The critical part about the Lucas is anybody can do CPR on the floor. It's the going down the road when you need that constant pressure while driving.
Right.
And if it's a two-man crew, which we run, you got a driver and you got a medic. Somebody's pushing drugs. Now you got constant CPR. Now granted, there's fire departments come in and the first responders come in handy a lot.
Right.
But this is a guaranteed speed bumps, hitting holes, crossing bridges. It's
Well, people don't-
amazing. I've been back there.
Yeah, I mean, people don't think about it, but so.
CPR is hard to do in the back of the house.
Well, it is. I mean, if you think about, like, our work environment is literally the bed of a pickup truck. That's what it is. So going down the road, you are standing up in the bed of a pickup truck, trying to do compressions, trying to make sure that you have a tube in their airway and you're bagging them and giving them medicine, and then you throw in standing up over them doing CPR the whole time. It is unsafe. I mean, it's just dangerous. We made it do for a very long time, but once Lucas came along, it was a game changer.
I'm pretty positive me and Brian would have been about the same time in the early '90s when they redone the loop.
Yeah,
Bridges, and the bridges were 6 inches higher than the road.
Right.
And getting to Athens Regional. And when they hit those bridges, you're flying
Yeah.
across the truck. The driver would holler, "Hang on!" He's going to stop CPR.
That's right.
Now, hang on.
I have kissed those front cabinets many a time.
Because if you didn't, you'd almost miss and you'd hit the patient right in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So good deal. Bobby, we're proud of the EMS that we have in this county. I brag on it all the time of being probably the best in the state.
Did y'all get a new sign at the whole?
So I've ordered it, yes. I saw it.
Going down the road yesterday.
Oh, okay, well, good. I was gonna say, I saw it change yesterday, so I don't think it's got delivered yet, but,
Going down today.
okay, good.
I talked to them.
We ordered it. It got blown over during one of the last storms.
Yeah.
They're installing a new one today.
Yeah.
Oh, I was listening, and not trying to just write, but, would you help convert some of these to like a per unit cost? So it's
Yeah.
a little easier to understand.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've
you
got
can turn it in.
Okay, I wrote it out here. I should have wrote it on all this,
That's
but
okay.
I can give it to Christina and get you guys a copy of it. I broke it down individually and, not only that, total overall cost for how many we need to buy.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Is there a reason for us not to consider partnering with fire stations as housing a good option?
No, as long as the relationship's good. And the problem, I say this, no dig at any of the fire departments and no dig at our administrations, but personalities get in the way sometimes. Fire departments have leadership changes, we have leadership changes, and then right now, our relationships are great with the fire departments. We have a great relationship. That doesn't mean that, you couldn't get a new chief, or you couldn't get a new chairman, or a new board, and those relationships break down. But, so it's my opinion that it would be best that the county look towards building new stations that are independent of the fire department, and that's just because it saves that likelihood of any ever a conflict, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, because there's been conflicts before.
There has.
We know
And
that.
that's right. And, it's, like I said, it has,
No, well, your EOC is set up different than your fire classroom. If you look at the.
Right,
County,
that's totally different.
The layout for the EOC is set up totally different with monitors, your desk office, your classroom portion. So the fire department's either gonna have a 30 by 40 or a 40 by 40 classroom. Be glad to have it, but the setup is different. They're gonna have tables in there for classroom. EOC comes in, we're gonna have to move everything, bring monitors, set it up. But to mimic like the one in Elbert County, it stays set up with monitors, computers. That's just a little different.
So, I think that whole thing's a bigger issue about, and as we progress, right now, fire departments have their own buildings.
Right, and that's what I was talking about, is like housing EMS, fire stations, not necessarily like a.
We're gonna have to address all that, because if we get to be multiple uses, then everybody's gotta have some skin in that game.
That's the other part of that question on the emergency operations center. You're thinking about what would be the most ideal place, most ideal location, and would it be appropriate to partner that with potentially the new Dansville Fire Department facility, or Dansville EMS facility, thinking about would be most ideal and how to get the most bang for buck there. So.
Yeah, and that's, I left the EOC portion kind of vague, just because I know that there's multiple things that are going on in the county. You know, there's the fire training center, there's the possibility of EMS buildings, there's, you know, so that's really up to you guys. The need for the EOC is there, wherever you guys decide, you know, it should go or whatever, but the need for the facility and for the room itself, it's there. It's just whatever you guys decide is best as far as who that should be with or where it should be, or that doesn't matter to me.
Well, Bobby, you know, and I'm my fault, I didn't ask Sheriff Moore while he was here. I don't think Brennan's here. But we know Danielsville current station, you know, will be the future road department over there. That building will inevitably be Public Works offices, you know, for Irene and the water and with Alan and everybody else. So that building, you know, I sort of walked away from the topic when I thought we were building it, and then it just sort of died out. Any more thoughts on moving 911 and combining the EMS into one structure? I mean, we went through pricing, and it just sort of fell apart right there.
I haven't put any more thought or effort into it, because you know, I don't have any issues with it. I think, you know, Danielsville Station is, despite its age, the layout and not necessarily the layout, but the capabilities of the station they're good. I mean, we have, you know, 3 bedrooms, we have multiple offices, we have a training space there. As long as that portion goes back into the new station or whatever new station that we're looking at, because that is our headquarters station. That's where all the offices are. And as long as we build for the future and build to, you know, to match what, you know, at least don't go back. As long as we match what we have now with the training room and the supply closets and the offices and things like that, I'm fine with it. You know, that's
Man, just answered the EOC question, by the way.
So, yeah, I mean, if
Because
the board decided,
all that building, and you just have the whole back of it, which is currently the meeting room, turn that into your EOC.
that would work. Yeah, I mean, there would need to be some funding.
Obviously.
You know, monitors and, you know, things like that, and computer systems and things like that. But, yeah, I mean, it could be, yeah.
All right, we'll figure that out as we come to it.
Okay.
Bobby, thank you today for coming, taking time out of your schedule. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Bobby.
Thank y'all.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Thanks, Bob.
All right. Ben.
All right.
Mr. Morris, IDA.
First, apologies for the tardiness. I thought the sheriff may speak a little longer than he did.
You don't know him very well.
I don't.
I'm the sheriff, you need me, call me.
Appreciate y'all getting together this morning. I'm glad to see, I guess, not too much damage this time around from the storms that came through that pushed all of this to today. I'll try to keep it brief. I think our request is pretty straightforward as far as what we want to use the money for. But for the 2026 BOC allocation, the Development Authority is requesting $1.5 million, or approximately 11.3% of the projected collections. This money will be used to support our capital initiatives with the goals of, expanding our economic growth, job creation, and tax base. And this will just be essential funding towards those goals and help us remain proactive in supporting any future opportunities that the county may be eligible for. Now, I tried to break it down into 3 simple priorities, with the last one kind of being an optional priority. But the first one would be to have these funds continue to support the development of the IDBA-owned property on Highway 72 between Hull and Culver. The 73-acre parcel that our hopes and goals is to have that developed into a light industrial and commercial use business park for the county to support growth and or expansion of existing businesses in the county. Now, over that point of time, obviously that would be extended over the 6-year period, so we'd be using funds, and since those are, some of the costs break down below, those are eligible funds, so what we would more than likely do is use the money we have on hand and use the SPOS that is collected to, in a sense, reimburse or pay those eligible costs back over the course of the period as it's collected. You can see just some of the breakdown of the eligible costs, and with water line installation to support the park, initial grading and site prep there, and then the road engineering and installation. As far as that, what I would call kind of first phase of infrastructure investment, to be able to give us marketable lots and almost site-ready type of opportunities for people looking to come in and build. Second is strategic land, I guess, acquisition is the kind of way I would phrase that, but basically what it would be is be very similar to the 73-acre parcel that we identified in a high opportunity area. As more and more parcels in those high opportunity areas or traffic corridors that we identified in the land use plan and the comprehensive plan as development opportunities, if we're in a position to acquire those for the development authority and then continue to work either with outside developers that come in, like the one on 98 going towards Jackson County, and or the opportunity to develop it ourselves, and that would be another eligible use of this fund. And now, and I'm not, I put on there, roughly 50 to 100 acre tracts, because that kind of the average there, you call it 75, that's about what we found on 72. And I'm not saying we wouldn't look at smaller tracts or larger tracts if available, but just kind of putting a number out there of kind of what we would look to acquire if and when available, and if the price is right. We're not going to break the bank by any means, but if something was a good deal for us to get our hands on as far as future development goes, and would like to explore that. And then the last one, the optional use there, because we have some previous GEPA loans that were used for infrastructure investments when the IDBA was overseeing the water department. We are still carrying those loans, and we are still servicing those loans. And my understanding is that SPLOST can reduce the debt on eligible infrastructure projects, which those water projects would qualify for. Now, the loan has a rate of 2.25%, which right now couldn't match it, couldn't refinance that or do anything different and get a better rate. So that was just an optional one, because it is such a low interest debt, it is not burdensome. But since it is out there, since it is accruing interest, it's just another option to use the funds wisely over the period of time. Now that's our, very quickly, kind of going through what our thoughts are. Now, the $1.5 million is slightly less than our previous request back in 2020, which was 1.62. Now, granted, that had to do, we were overseeing water, and that was with the understanding that most of those funds would go or should go towards water infrastructure projects, which is why, this time around it's slightly less within accounting or trying to account for inflation and other measures since then. That's how I came up with that 1.5. Obviously, if you guys are generous and want to throw more, then I'll happily, apply it and use it towards these projects or other areas. But that's where the Development Authority is at the moment. I would love to field any questions or comments that you all may have.
First off, thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. Great breakdown. I appreciate you making it today to explain this to us. Gentlemen, do you have any questions? Mr. Morris?
The balance of last year's loss, is that meant to be we're sitting on the money?
No, we are still sitting on that as it is continuing to collect. Correct?
Yes, they will receive the January through June
of what's left.
For 27. They'll receive that. So the board decided that the county would receive until December's revenues for the water, and then the last 6 months go to the IDA. So that they will have funds there.
So I think what we've left from January through June, right?
Yes,
was
sir.
roughly It's right under maybe $500,000.
Yeah, that's what we
About
thought.
30 or so a month is what we were kind of basing it on.
If you can look, or if you can look, just shoot us an email, just to let us know what that balance is going to look like, projectedly to look like. That'd be great. Good question, Derek. Anybody else? Man, you're like sheriff, dude. You get out of here early.
Okay, well, very good. And obviously, if anything comes up after the fact, please reach out. Be happy to talk through it or explain anything else. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Jones, keep your seat. You ain't going nowhere. You have nothing to do. Just kidding. Thank you for coming also.
I'm sorry, I gotta go.
Thank you, sir, for coming. All right, Rodney Schubert. Caleb, is that right? Is it Caleb?
Yeah.
I hope today you'll take in what we're doing here as a measure to get out to the public how crucial this is and where that goes, because transparency is everything. And I think hearing these presentations today, you know, the way you write the articles, you've done an excellent job since you've been with the Journal, laying this out for us really good today, captioning it well. Will give the public an understanding of what how this comes into play. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate it. I know you're going to do a good job, but while I had it on my brain, sorry, I work that way.
I do want to say, put an updated copy for the water department request on on top of your packet. It's not the one that was in the packet.
It's got a hand scribbles of difference.
Yes, it has the water tank in the middle added.
Not making fun of your handwriting. It's bad.
But anyway, the water department's request for SPLOST would be some well projects. One of them being the female well, it's alive now, it serves the female. As soon as we get the line going to the female, we can, test that well, we can put it online, test it to see what we can get out of it. And that project, you see the price of it, the estimated cost of it. 2 well sites up there at Seymour property at Madison West. We got them located. We're waiting on the EPD to give us a permission to drill letter, and then we can get the sites cleared and drill them. You can see that's for 2 wells, the price of it. The IDA's got a property on 72, which we did get a site located over there for a well. We just have to get with them to see if we can still pursue that, I guess. And you see the total of them well projects. And we're working with the road department as far as getting excavator, skid steer, boring machine, welder, dozer to put our own lines in the future. And then the drip field and the discharge, Todd and I are wanting to push the stream discharge on a wastewater plant where we can get more coming into the plant, higher production. But we got to get a price on upgrading the plant to get to meet the BODs and the TSS level.
While we're right there, I want to stop right just quickly. So, gentlemen, we have received our go-ahead letter from EPD for the river discharge. We were made aware Thursday of last week. I know we started on around Monday. A grant has came out through ARC for $2.5 million. It's a matching grant, 1-1 grant. We were contacted by Regional Commission and ARC, said that your sewer plant in Dogsboro will fit this grant application, and they recommended us going after it. Luckily, it has a quick turnaround. We should know by June 28th if we get it. Currently, Mr. Phillips and Mr. Schubert is putting together, they don't want a full-blown PRE on this, they just want a cost estimate to turn in. And I spoke with Ms. Everson at ARC, and they feel like if we can get it in rather quickly, that this project will be approved, which will be a huge plus. But there's always, again, keep in mind that it's a matching grant of $2.5. So it's up to $5 million, because not just the river discharge in this and the cost of running the line, it's almost 1.8 miles, if my memory serves right. But we'll have to do some remodel of our current plant to be able to equate to make it work. So that's a lot of where this request is coming from. And I know Commissioner Adams and Commissioner May is in y'all's districts up there, so, and I know it's a high priority for the board to get that done. So I just want to give you a couple things that's not in this because it just came to light after this was printed. Yeah, so anyway, thank you, Mr. Schuler. Go right ahead. I apologize.
If the two wells at Seymour was are they producing high volumes of water, we may need a water tank in that area to make a second, pressure zone, because the elevation up there is high. So that's where the water tank, that the scribble is, water tank for the Seymour project, or property, is what I call it. So
that is our highest elevation in the county, and that is where our pressure runs the lowest, is up on that end of town. Yes, the wells, Mr. Seymour was nice enough to dedicate us 2 well sites up there, and more if needed. Very easy to work with, and we're thankful for it. But the tank, to get those pressures where we're going to need, it is very possible if the volume's there.
And all the cost of them wells is determined on how much water we get out of it and the quality of it. So, and then I guess the wish list would be the connections to Isla from Roger Mill up 98, Roger Mill to Isla from 106. And I put the estimated footage on there, and then Roger Mill to the new subdivision on 98. It's off Woodland Drive. That'd be a little connection we could do, I think, in-house. And then the Woodland Drive to 98, that would be a +2 right there. And then Matico Drive to Pioli Junction on Highway 72. Right now, we got a dead-end line there at Pioli Junction that comes across the property of Matico that we own. And it dead ends right there at that height. And then it dead ends, or the end right there at Matico Drive and 172. We can connect them two and go down there, down 98 to 72 and connect them. That's what that project was.
Right, now, just for clarity, the Roger Mill, the subdivision, that 1,400 feet Gentleman Woodland Drive are also dead ends.
Yes, all of them.
That would connect and actually serve those, but we actually have some failing wells on Woodland.
Yes.
So we would actually be fixing 2 problems. We'll be servicing the customers and getting rid of 2 dead ends. And just to clarify, on the connections to Isla, that's really not on the wish list. It's going to have to be it's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
Because of the new school. And I don't know if any of you are aware, but the county, the Board of Education has acquired property now at Isla to start the construction process or the design process for the school at Isla. So that is a guarantee over the process of 5 years. We have to run around Isla.
That's all I have.
You mentioned, start to lay some of the water line in-house. You talk about additional staffing, addition to equipment.
Yes.
In your mind, does that put us in a position to essentially do all the water line construction in-house, and how much per foot reduction would that be?
Well, right now, anything that's come, like the Rose Acres project, project over there, that developer is paying for everything.
Right.
So until we get bigger, I don't think we need to be able to install our own water lines, because if anybody comes to the county wanting to do a subdivision or anything else, they go cover the cost. It's my thinking now. I might be thinking wrong.
Well, you mentioned that, you talk about the equipment request, you mentioned that, doing some of the stuff in-house.
Well, something like that, 1,000 foot or 1,200 foot that we could do in-house.
And a lot of it is size-based too. Running a 6-inch is a lot different than an 8-inch. A 6-inch is an in-house job, possibly an 8-inch in-house job.
Yeah.
But a 12-inch line, 100% send it out to contractors. And that'll also cut the cost on some of the board machines. Because if you get the machines up to a certain size without going over a certain size, it's usable on a regular basis versus trying to buy one big enough to do the larger size, which we're not capable of doing, nor would I think we'll be able to employ and keep them busy enough to do the big stuff. So We've discussed a lot of that on the employee side, gentlemen. I think it's a really good plan. Right now, we've not crossed this bridge yet, but we will in the future. We have some very confident guys at the road department in certain areas that can assist Rodney to get him off the piece of equipment now. So it's worked well, and it's gonna work, but there is gonna be people needed over the coming years.
We're growing, I mean.
Yes, but that was our intent, so in all fairness. And there'll be some cost savings, definitely.
The conversation that ran for the sewer system, potential upgrades and change, does that also, consideration also include moving that down the hill, get that off the top of the hill?
That lift station, no, you're talking 30 million and 20 years worth of permitting. We have to build to it. There's no way around that one.
Unless you move it down toward the south end of the county.
Yeah.
So where would the stream discharge be?
It's, the name of it, is it Little Bear Creek?
Little Bear Creek, I think, right below EMCI office.
Yeah.
The creek down on 29, that's where we'll be discharged.
I don't want anybody to panic, but here's that. This has been approved by EPD. The volume of water going down through it will handle what we have. It's still a small system. We don't have a massive plant. Even if we double it, it's still not a massive plant. But it's the best thing we can do for now.
What are we discharging now? What do we want to discharge?
We can handle 50,000 gallons a day right now.
To the drip system?
To the drip system.
How much of that are we using?
We are using 14,000 a day.
So you're
And the
forward, 25% right now.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, it was 8,000. I mean, it's how much it's grown in a couple of years. And the drip field is in the bad shape.
Yeah. That's where I was gonna go. The cost of repair to the drip field right now is probably around 1.5 million to repair the current drip field. But you're also eating up almost 47 acres of valuable land that could be developed. So it's sort of a no-brainer on this one. The squirrels and the animals wreak havoc on the drip
And we'll have to upgrade the system, the plant, to get them BODs and TSS to discharge.
There's been a lot of changes, and Derek knows this, I'm sure, over the past year or two with BOT levels.
What's the discharge permit that DPD just approved? Or they just approved the location with the same volume?
They was it 1 point? I can't remember it's been 6 months ago since we looked at this.
Say that one more time.
I don't remember what it was on that, we applied for on that discharge.
It was to double it.
It was.
It was. That was the whole reason we applied, is so we could double our plant capacity in case that area up there exploded with larger type commercial retail.
I think we went a little bit bigger than double.
Yeah, it is a little bit bigger than double.
I can't remember exactly.
So 100,000 gallon discharge permit down the road that we got to pump to. I'm not saying the plant doesn't need upgrade. I'm not disputing that it needs some work. But I'm just also, I got a question that looking at some sort of package plan. I mean,
Our plan
setting this up for a long term. I mean, I know gravity takes a lot of money to get down there too, but a package plan or some sort of plant there, and then bumping to that, and then eventually building out the gravity. Are we discharging the point that we need to be, or is that just the most convenient place that PPD says would work?
That was the most convenient place that the engineer found to go to. And we did look at building a lift station over there in the Hannah Heights area, back in there, and pumping up there to gain more customers. we really need more customers as far as, we got most of it, ours is commercial.
Right.
Where we get more water and sewage, more water and soda than we do the real product that we need to make the plant work.
But as long as we leave the plant where it is, we'll just eat ourselves up with pump stations trying to get people to it.
Right.
Every new application requires
And that brings the argument of, I come to a little pump station with a pump into your line, and when you get enough of those, you're gonna blow somebody out.
back up in the English parking lot.
Yeah. Everything in Danielsville is on a lift station. It's a daisy chain of lift stations. There's 4 lift stations in Danielsville. It starts at the bottom of the hill and pumps to the bottom of this hill pumps over to this hill pumps over to this hill. And then geographically, even with a small package plant, you're anywhere in between 8 and 15 million. And we're gonna redo our plant for 2, or, well, the plant for 2, and another 2.5 with lines. Well, for us, our commitment would be 2.5.
We did build a lift
Unfortunately,
station.
they built it in the wrong place. I can't help that, and we can't pick it up and move it to Calvert, or Carlton's the ideal place. It's just downhill.
The new lift station we put in behind Waffle House, we built it big enough to accommodate that side of 29.
Which Waffle House paid. And we had 200 acres there.
But we have had people inquiring about putting subdivisions there, asking if we had sewage capacity.
That's the one thing you gotta worry about, is that 200 acres. What's gonna go on that 200 acres? Because you could be out of plant real quick.
Oh, it won't take long.
For apartments. Rodney, good job, Mr. May. Mr. Kurt?
What, then about the tank, I mean, I have hard reservations about trying to institute a dual pressure zone. Would prefer, my preference would be not to do that. What kind of pressures are we running at?
But there, around some spots on Commerce East is around 35. And up there in Blacks Creek area, they're around 45, 50. Depending on where it's at.
We have a meeting next week with Eric and Lise, and we're not gonna be able to do a dual pressure zone.
Yeah. I don't like the dual pressure zone.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to do it.
But we're rather than add the tank, and I know that would add the tank a little higher, and you gotta manage, I mean, you can manage it. I mean, perfect world, everything is at the same elevation, I get that, but a little bit of increase in elevation by the time you expect your loss and pull out and water pulling off of it.
You put a ground storage tank up there would help tremendously.
Yeah.
But I've got a question, since that's already at a high elevation,
Yeah.
would we be but dollars ahead thinking of a ground tank as opposed to an elevated tank?
Well, it's just the energy you gotta push in it, is it dynamic or kinetic, so I mean, that's even the ground storage tank, if you pump it high enough, you're gonna pump more out the other tank, I mean, it's just.
We are looking at, using a 200,000 gallon tank beside EMS, for storage, for backup.
Yeah.
We're working on that too with Eric, to see how we can use them efficiently without costing a lot of money.
Yeah, and you'd have to manipulate that because of the overflows or it just becomes static.
You have to turn that tank over every 72 hours, which ain't many gallons of water per day.
After my talks with Eric, I don't think that's gonna work either, but we'll find out more next week, hypothetical, but yeah. I agree with Derek, he's 100% right on this one. And we could possibly look at, the removal of our, we took a couple tanks out of service just because of pressure. But Rodney's throwing the ball for it right here. But it is something we have to take into account for, what, cost of moving a tank versus, because they're pretty expensive.
Oh, yeah.
To move to. And it's crazy because, just 8 years ago, we built a tank for $650,000. It was a relocation from Franklin County, $650,000, and now we're at $3.5.
Oh.
No, I don't disagree that everything's gonna have to be elevated, but I think strategically placed elevated tanks.
Yeah.
It's a smart
fix a lot of issues. We just gotta hope those wells,
We get enough out of it.
that's right. That's gonna be the key to it all. All right.
And what about the line to the feed mill? Where are we at on that grant?
This week's email, what's today, Thursday? Right. Ricky Adair, we're still dealing with USDA, and it's a nightmare. We're supposed to get a phone call today. It tells me we have to go ahead, that no other documents are required. We've sent everything 3 times.
Now, all documents have been, received and approved. The only thing Ricky is reviewing is the bid packet. Once he gets those specs, he reviews those specs, then we can start the procurement process.
Correct. So I'm assuming today after 12 o'clock, there's going to be a phone call made to John Phillips from Ricky Adair, giving us the green light according to the email yesterday. At that point, I get the green light from Ricky Adair, and then I talk to Mr. Cedric Maddox for financial funding and win that notice to proceed for bid. That was the emails yesterday. But we are at the closing stages, finally.
Well, the only question I got is where in the process are we needing to do, or if any, or what your expectation is on the maintenance of the existing tank on 72? The due for,
We on the schedule with Tank Pro. They just cleaned the one at Sanford behind Hole. And I think the one on 72 is due this year or next year for cleaning. We just painted the one in Sanford, last year. It's on the schedule for maintenance and upkeep, inspections. Good stuff.
We just had the one at GRP done last year. They come in.
Yes, they vacuumed it out, cleaned it real good.
Yeah, that was last year.
We can't empty it for them to clean, they gotta do it live. The 3 million gallon tank.
It was extremely clean.
Yeah, it was better than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat what they did that day. Vacuum cleaner. Scuba gear. We got pictures of it, you can see.
That'll be my next job. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Good job.
Sorry it took so long.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, right? Excellent. I just bought one of them robots the other day. I'm surprised. What are you walking softly for, sir?
No, that's so that you feel sorry and will.
Oh, is that what that is?
We'll tell them about the knee surgery later.
Hey, Flitty.
Both of them.
All right, Commissioner Adams ain't here, you can pick at him, but looks what happens when you do too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, gentlemen, what you got?
All right, well, good morning, Chairman, board members. Thank you guys for talking, listening to us this morning, everything. Of course, we're coming back again. We appreciate all the support you've given us in the past SPLOS, and all the support you've given all the fire departments over the years and things like that. We have to say thank you for that up front. This year, as SPLOS comes through, we're looking at my numbers, so you guys have the package that we submitted. But everything you've provided us has really helped us out quite a bit. This year, as we come up, I did my numbers on 6 years. I don't have the percentages of what the last time it was, things like that and everything. We're asking for $2.5 million over, like I said, over a 6-year period, so I did my math on. That works out to about $200,000 a year, or $200,000 per department over the 6 years. Now, we're talking 12 departments here as well, and about $35,000 a year per department. It still amazes me how many times and how many people I talk to in this county that don't realize we still have a 100% volunteer fire service. When we go out there, just like in the storms the other night, we had every department in the county out cutting trees and working the roads and dealing with other things while we're out there. We have quite a bit of need, And honestly, we're never gonna be able to fund that need through our county SPOS or through what, you are already providing us graciously on our annual contracts. This year, the annual contract was about $1.3 million. When you split that up through the departments, it's roughly $100,000 per department. And we provided the formulas that the different departments do. Again, our department's not created equal. Some departments do 125, 130 calls a year. Some do 25 to 30 calls a year. And that's just how it is. That's really based upon population and population density. If you're in one of the small cities or down in the Hull area where the population lies, you're going to run 150 calls a year. That requires more equipment and more manpower, of course. And of course, that's something we still struggle with. It's a completely different situation there. We need funding for vehicles. We need funding for buildings. We need funding for equipment. Just like Bobby was saying earlier, we have our regulatory authorities, which is the Fire Protection Association and basically OSHA, NEOSH, that require us to replace equipment every 10 to 15 years. And an example of that we've got coming up at Shiloh, our breathing apparatus, which we're required to have 12 of them to meet that requirement for NFPA. We have to have 12 of them. They cost between $9,000 and $10,000 a piece. By January 2028, we have to buy 12 of those BAs because our BAs are aging out. And that's not just because they're wore out and used up, it's the regulatory issues, but it's also the technology changes that go into it to keep our firefighters safe. You know, when you're putting that stuff on and you're going inside a hazardous environment that could cost you your life, you want to make sure your guys get the good equipment. And we don't have to have the, Cadillac stuff. There's lots of different ways about it. There's things that get it done. But we at Shiloh, we're going to spend $120,000 in the next couple of years. And when it costs you $80,000 a year to run a department, and we're receiving roughly 100, that's not a lot of money to buy BAs. That buys 2 BAs, not 12. So that's kind of the situation we're in. Same thing with turnout gear and stuff like that. We have to replace our turnout gear every 10 years based upon that regulatory requirement. Right now, that's costing between $3,000 and $6,000 depending on what you're winding up with in your year.
2 BAs right now is $20,000. We just got 2 replaced.
Right.
In the county, so that's just for 2.
Right.
It requires 4 per truck to be credible for the engines. You have to have minimum 4 on that truck.
Right. So if you got 3 engines going, you got a tanker and 2 engines going out. That's what you got to have. And because you got to have your people got to be protected. Like I noted in the presentation that we worked on, we currently have about 160 firefighters out there that are certified. Like I said, 12 departments. With rescue, we have 12 departments. And last year we did 815 calls. When you run some average numbers on that kind of stuff and everything like that, it's about 124,000 man hours a year that the county doesn't pay a dime for, our citizens don't pay a dime for, because that's just the labor that's put into that kind of stuff and everything. So we help save the county a lot of money just in that aspect. I've talked with Elbert County, or the city of Elberton and the city of Toccoa, and their salaries alone are running, just salaries, $1.5 to $2 million a year just to pay. And one case, it was 36 people, which is spread out 24 hours a day, 365 days a year over those shifts. And they only have 8 people on shift. When the other night, we probably had 60 people out and about all through town, all over.
Just easy, the structure fire we had between 3 departments, we had 30 people there.
Right.
If you would have had paid there, you're typically 2 to 3 members per engine, so you would have had 6. Well, we're putting 30 people on scene instead of. So
right.
We're able to coverage a lot in the county.
Right. I give you these guys, I don't know if you pick up the PowerPoint as well, but either way, we have coverage, and that's what Jackson's talking about. We don't have 8 people standing here waiting over here in the station to go run help for something. What happens to us, because a lot of our folks work outside the county, you get a call at noon on a Thursday, and you get 3 from Shiloh, 4 from Danielsville, 2 from Pokey, just depending on where it might be at. Now we're putting 10 or 12 people on site. These people are coming out of the chicken houses, getting off tractors, or coming from their place of employment like Jackson does, because he works around the county all the time. And so that's what's happening. Like I said before, it really amazes me how many people don't realize we are still a volunteer. It really is.
You don't realize, because when the need's there, the big red truck pulls up.
Right.
They don't look at what's on the side of it.
Exactly.
It comes when it's cold.
They look at it and say, why did it take you 12 minutes to get here? The fire station's only 2 miles down the road. So we all had to get off the tractor to go get the truck to go down here, you know, that's how it works and stuff. But anyway, that's the big gist of what we think we bring the value, we bring the county and our citizens. And that's why we think we would justify asking for these kind of funds. We talked about trucks earlier. Bobby was talking about trucks and everything like that. We've got apparatus spread all over the county. The oldest apparatus that I can figure out is a 91 model engine that's at Shiloh. It's a 34-year-old fire truck. And it rolls to fires when we're called. And that fire truck, if we had to replace it outright, it would probably cost us between $700,000 and $900,000, if not $1 million. Now, some of us, we all buy used trucks. Some of us are able to buy new trucks sometimes, depending on the department. Some of us have done some creative stuff and bought refurbished trucks and and used even the truck we got donated from the county. Those trucks have come in great. That big military truck we got from y'all, and we refurbished it and turned it into a fire truck. We drove it all the way down the power line here a while back. We had the fire up here off 98, just past Woodland Drive. And, you know, Danielsville was there, but they can't drive that big custom cab off the road down that way like we did. So they're getting good use and stuff.
That custom cab that they had when it was purchased was around $350,000. You go purchase that custom cab right now, you're gonna be up about 9.5.
Yeah, well, it's 11, almost, I think it's almost 11 years, it's almost 11 years old now.
2010.
2010, so it's it's almost 15 years old now. So anyway, those things are outrageous. Ladder trucks.
Years, you triple the price of the truck.
Yeah, a ladder truck will cost you over $1 million, you know, pumpers and tankers and things like that, you know. Like I said, we do a very good job, I think, of looking for used apparatus that we can still use out here. Bobby was talking about that one truck, you know, our engine's got over 100,000 miles on it. It's a 34-year-old truck. That's a pretty big deal.
I'm glad it's doing well, because I was there when we bought it.
Yeah, well, we tell you, the guy was down there working on the pump yesterday, and I ain't got the invoice for that yet, so that's how it works. But anyway, again, I know you guys understand that side of our department, but we did think we did bring a huge financial savings to the county over what it would cost. I think we're still many years away from having a full-time fire department in Madison County.
True.
We are many years away from that, but we got good folks that are doing good things and saving the county money and doing so. So that's why I think that this request that we're asking for to buy this, the apparatus we need, to buy the equipment we need, and do our buildings. Another example on building, and of course I go back to Shiloh because I know more about Shiloh than him. That structure where we park our trucks at, it's a 4-bay structure. It's a 1981 red iron building that was built out of sheet metal, and it's got its issues. Some departments are able to buy it and build new buildings, some aren't. But we have, across the county as a whole, we're here to represent all 11 departments and Madison County Rescue. And like I said, the equipment we have, it gets a lot of wear and tear and gets a lot of work. And if we can provide our volunteer firefighters the equipment they need to keep themselves safe, it will make our citizens safer and give us a better means of providing fire protection to our communities.
Mr. Butch, Jackson, either one. Does either one of you know the projected savings on insurance that we have because of the ISO ratings, just across the board, roughly what you guys save taxpayers on insurance?
I can give you an example of a single household that's on Charles Bruce Road, a couple miles or so from the Shiloh Station number 1. When we went from a 4.9, which rating 4.9 to a 4.10, which makes it everybody within 5 road miles of one of our stations is a 4 rating. When we went from that, I actually did it for several properties in the area, but that particular one I remember, their homeowners insurance for their home and the several acres they had there, it saved them almost $1,000. It was $900,000 a year that it would save them by that rating change when we did that in 2018. Having said, we just got that rating reviewed in 24. It's still 14 for us. It depends on where you're at, what your rating is, what department there are. But for that one property, it was $900 a year in savings on their homeowners insurance.
Now we dropped one point from the ISO. We dropped down one that saved them $600 a year. I don't have the.
So 1 point is $600 a year.
Well, between 6 and 9, depending on
Okay.
the scale of the house.
Yeah, square footage, location.
I wanted to make that point.
But if it's a 10 with no fire department, you will struggle with insurance covering it, or it will be outrageous.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make that point more, not necessarily for this board, but for the citizens that's gonna read the Madison County Journal, of how crucial, because again, just like the EMS, I brag about our fire departments all over the state of Georgia when I go to meetings. We've got the best volunteer, because of the turnout and what you guys do. And seeing the budgets, that your expenditures and your revenues from this side of the table, again, you don't have to say it. We know you do an excellent job on that side also. So it's a huge win for everybody, but it's very important that citizens understand that. You know, I wish you guys would periodically put articles in the paper about what the fire service looks like. I'm sure the Journal would love to run articles, you know, talking about just that, what 1.0 ISO. Because I know right now, Isla, on the 98 development, he's wanting to put a little small station with just one truck up there on that development. Because of that industry, what that would do for them, having that up there. But it's also a key role for us because of the water system. Getting those extra hydrants out there, running that line between Danielsville, or the end of the line of Danielsville to Isla to the new school, tying that city back for redundancy. The feed mill line, tying Comer's lines in for redundancy, and what that does for y'all's ISO. So it's a bigger picture to the public to read, that each one of these parcels of this splash goes to help all the citizens. So,
Well, it's all part of the same puzzle.
yeah. But it
It's
makes many different
informative, because right
parts.
now, all the public are getting made very aware of what their ISO rating is. Before, if you just said you lived in Comer, you just went with whatever Comer was. Now everything is being GPS, so some people are finding out they're not within 5 miles of their ISO rating is changing, so you'll probably start hearing that.
Yeah, the insurance companies have really locked down on that, in the last few years. They're using GPS. That's what I do, is I pull up GPS map and I map it from station to.
But our ISO already uses
the
GPS,
location.
just the insurance agency hasn't been utilizing that up until the past year or so.
If you're outside that 5 mile range, your property insurance is probably gonna go up. It depends on the insurance company, of course, but we are very lucky that if you look at the map, or I don't know if you guys have the map I provided, we've got very good coverage. It's got great coverage, we've got crossover coverage and stuff, and that's very good for all of our citizens, because if we didn't, like I said, you've got 2 or 3 people showing up versus 6, 7, 8, 10, or 20, and it makes a big deal, especially when you're dealing with day, night, weekends, weather conditions, things like that and everything.
So Christina's put together a pretty good sheet for us here. It's a cheat sheet for us that the public don't know, but anyway, it's nothing anybody can't read. But it's basically, you're asking for a $416,000 increase over a 6-year period, which is $208,000. I don't know about that one, $208,000 a year per department.
No, it's over the 6 years,
Oh.
it's 280.
Oh, yeah.
It's 35 a year.
Yeah, $34,000 a year. And you just heard that 2 VAs, $20,000.
Yeah,
So,
and we need 12 of them.
yeah. Again, you're talking to us, but I'm wanting to talk to the public, so.
Yeah.
That's why I like the details for the public, because I really want them to know how important this is. I mean, this is huge.
I just want to make a remark here. I don't think there's probably anybody that supports fire departments more than I do. I've been part of it. I have great appreciation for it. And talking about the public, and because we are using public money, and I think it's a good thing to get it out there amongst the folks so they know what they're getting for, hey, that extra $35,000 that we're talking about, because you tend to get some people who they look at giving them more money and they're already getting this money and they don't understand. So what I'm asking for is that make sure that we have a good accountability as far as during the year, as the different departments spend this money that we allocate. And I don't have any problem with what we're doing here at all, but that you talk about it and sort of maybe come in and let us know, this is what the the
You
fire
want to take
department.
pictures next week,
Yeah.
when I get 3 sets of turnout,
Yeah.
it's gonna be bought out of SPOS.
Yeah, exactly that, and let's make this a known fact, and then, they'll let us provide, an opportunity also to let folks know what they're getting for fire departments in Madison County. Because we got a lot of people that have moved in, that are new, and they don't understand the bargain we have, you know? Just like you say, we're not paying salaries. There is some tax money that goes in there, but it's such a bargain compared to what if you had to have a full-time fire department. And that's the thing that the paper can highlight, that, you know, we've got these volunteers that are giving of their time and of themselves to go out there and do this. And their incentives, they got a little incentive, but they don't have a whole lot of incentive to do it, other than they're just doing their community service and things like that. So, but I would like to make sure that we do have good accountability, that we keep some good records of what we spent the money on. And then also, I'm sure that y'all will talk about it in y'all's groups about, you know, like the purchase of trucks or whatever you're doing on a countywide basis. I know that sometimes you see people that, I mean, different people want, you know, several things in their area, like always the discussion is ladder trucks. You know, some people think, well, I need a ladder truck, I need a ladder truck. Well, Madison County probably don't need that many ladder trucks. I know, yeah, that's what I heard last time, was maybe we need really one ladder truck right now. It may change in the future. So, you know, as we have those things come up, I just wanted to remain that the leadership, which I think, Jackson, now you're the leader of the group, that the leadership takes, and you also, as you do it, that the leadership will take that and make sure that as a whole, we're doing the right things. Because again, as volunteers, they, you know, sometimes they tend to become sort of tunnel vision, I guess. So let's make sure of that. And
Over
like I say,
over the past 6 years, I'll say that I've been working on the county for the association. We've started doing stuff more together, pump tests, hose tests, coordinating, and we've saved volumes.
I know.
That way. So we got a ways to go, but it's been a slow improvement over the course.
And I think that should be made known. And then I would like to see, you know, sometime come back, you know, it's not every meeting, but plan some meetings to come back quarterly or something like that, and just say, this is what we've done with the money, and then talk about those things that y'all coordinated and done, and just so that the community knows exactly what you're doing. And whereas I take a lot of pride in that we've got, as I agree with Todd, the best volunteer fire departments around, or the best fire department, period, and it just happens to be volunteers.
And some of our fire departments has actually got ISO ratings lower than paid fire departments.
Yes, they do.
Oh, we are, yeah,
Sure.
our
Truth be known.
countywide, we've got some very good ratings. I mean, if you look at some of the other counties around the state, you guys know I teach for the State Fire Academy around the state and stuff like that. Where I go places and you'd be amazed at the equipment you see in paid, small city, county departments that I look at and go, oh my goodness, man, I'm glad. We've got better equipment than a lot of folks.
Sejima classes for rescue used to have our rescue trucks in them to go by that was taught.
Yeah.
Was the truck from Madison County that lay out and designed and was in those classes. So that shows how much pride we put in.
And Brian also touched on something again that shows how important this SPOS is to not only the fire departments, but actually the water department. You brought up a ladder truck. A ladder truck won't work hardly anywhere in this county because of the pressure, the supply, the volume, the reserves. That, again, that shows the connectivity of all the different departments to make one department flourish. Thank you, guys. Any questions, Mr. Chandler? Mr. May? Mr. Doctor?
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. Gentlemen, y'all want to stretch your legs, stand up, drink of water, restroom? About an hour and a half into it. We'll take a 5 minute, if y'all don't mind.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, if you want any information, shoot me an email, I can send some of the stuff that we, put together and stuff. That we got going on.
Hey, young man.
Yeah, they're very across the county.
I'm doing well, sir. Hope you are.
The stuff that we're just fine on.
Hey, do you know what's going on with Rogers Mill Bridge down here?
Yes, sir. Great coverage.
We are,
Stuff like that, some of the training reasons.
see what the
Yeah,
problem
it's
was with
just
it.
DOT, here, I'll let you know.
controls that. It's going to be rebuilt.
Try to get you.
No, it's not actually.
Got some home and stuff.
Right now, we're looking at reopening that bridge. It's gonna be a while. No, actually, it's not.
Surprised the people coming away.
It's movement rather than, we already have that compass calling with the heat. It's gonna look like my shirt now.
Yeah.
We think this is a complete reopening, should be by the end of the month. Oh, really? Yeah. Good. But unfortunately, it's not very big. It's really funny, I mean, 200 bridges, I had the exact same recommendations on repair, but they don't do those of them. On where? Howard ditch. So we actually got to fix all three, but those will be able to stay in the front.
Really?
Unfortunately, I'm not going to I think it was trouble when you get a thoroughfare like that.
I have two hurricanes on the day. One where I'm gonna go class the gypsy or when I come to meet the governor.
I was shocked, to be honest.
So faded out there.
These are like, we got uniforms. I said it was minimal. I thought it should say, I will be prepared by next day, but I don't know that they were going to like the public function, so I don't think that could be what we fixed up is really ironic also is we passed 100% completion last year. And that bridge, we had to do some repairs 3 years ago, but it's passed for a pass too.
Well, Rogers Mill is actually a pretty popular cut through too, because otherwise you go all the way up Highland. A lot of people like the street.
We have some really strategic cut throughs, that work well, and one goes down.
Yeah.
That's all right. We just didn't find out that. We got a fire and where's that? We can train her.
The owner's vehicle,
I was writing that already, they put you away, I go through I told her that I already know I had to. And she come back, she said, well, you're already right. I said, why do you guys know that you're missing?
You just like being right.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you must have any, noticed that like trees or Friday, one year, nobody showed up.
Probably didn't have
or whatever, and say, hey,
My house, these are the big trees, I ordered.
I mean, have you got that before?
I mean, a bunch of together in the woods, like, but like the road, there's 6 trees across it. There's one where one big tree then took 2 more down.
And then it is that broke off underground, like this is
Pretty good out there.
He still work with you? Yeah. Get him out there, mate. Brad got convenience for a while.
I just think it'd be longer than that. Maybe it would. That's the worst few counties I really got.
They all are.
Yeah, so you'll get a text from, that's right.
I told Jonathan Pugh that you were back in town.
Okay. Yeah, guess you guys are out all night.
We got home about 1, Sunday night was 2:30, and I got about 6, 1:30.
We went back that next morning. All
All right, gentlemen, we're gonna bring it back.
People took my company.
Paul Mess. Building grant.
Gentlemen,
I don't know, gentlemen, any of y'all don't know Paul?
probably don't.
Any of y'all ever met Paul or not? He's been with us before. Oh, how long you been with us now?
Owned property in Madison County since 2019 and lived here for going on 2 years, over 2 years.
Come out of Cincinnati, right?
Is that right?
He, believe it or not about Paul, watched our Board of Commissioners meetings for a few years before ever moving down here. It was actually,
Okay.
and still came.
Yeah. Actually, the paper was my connection with, I bought papers from multiple places. We opened a wedding venue, and part of opening a wedding venue, at the time, Madison County didn't recognize wedding venues. None of you, I think, were on the board then. And there was a process of getting that done, and the qualities of the community is what brought us to Madison County. And I painted that pool a little bit, but it's still pretty good. Pretty good. I work for Building and Grounds. This is a new thing as far as our department is coming into this. We have changed our department quite a bit. I like to think that we're more efficient, and being a taxpayer myself, I'd like to make our tax dollars go a little farther. It's with quality improvements and hopefully doing things right the first time is the way I see it. My first on the list is the senior center getting tied into from septic to sewer. I'm 54 years old. At the age of 14, I got a job in a septic field and kind of worked on and off of it for a long time. Sewer, well systems, different things like that. That system is probably about 80%. And somebody way before us had the forethought to plumb it to between the library and the senior center. So by connecting those two, there's a couple things we change. There is a grease trap that is separate from that system that also goes underneath the greenhouse. Don't know why a greenhouse was put on a septic field, but it was. The cost of moving the greenhouse to service anything is way above what we're proposing here to make that connection. I spoke with Mr. Perry, who is my direct connection with plumbing in this county. And we went up, shot elevation, and it's easy. He's not interested in having to do the work. We can do the work. It's not a big deal. We have done This calendar year, we have serviced
3 or 4 septic systems down.
and got them to a functioning state. It's been the practice in the past to bury the lid and forget about it till it don't work no more, and that's starting to haunt us right now. Underneath that one, you'll see EMS 1 being connected into sewer. We shot the grade on that. We have 2 different possibilities. We can either take it into the manhole between the health department and EMS. That would require it to be sleeved to go underneath that road for future development. Or we still have the elevation to take it into the lift station that's down at the jail. We have also been involved in maintaining that lift station down there. I have no clue how much money we have saved the county with the repairs that we have done, with changing the things that we do. That takes me now to the, well, do you guys have any questions about any of this stuff? If you do, just throw a hand up, because I got stuff to do, so I'm going to get through this, you know what I mean? The animal shelter incinerator is $9,500. There is one in place right now. Met with the guy who has repaired it in the past, and he won't touch it anymore. It's at a dangerous state to repair because on the gas side, they don't have parts for it anymore, and he's not going to retrofit what was previously retrofitted. I totally understand this. The incinerator would be, this proposed incinerator would be in the animal control. I don't know what we call that area.
Animal control.
Yeah, down by the kennels. And basically, it is a more humane slash, I don't even know.
I think we get it.
Yeah, okay. Because as an individual, I don't understand why we do it the way we do it. Let's just leave it at that. All right. Unless y'all got a question.
Paul, we did talk about this more in detail yesterday. That $9,500 is for the incinerator, a building, or shipping container, kind of the whole setup, not just the incinerator itself.
Right. And we were looking at going a different route before we kind of put the splosh thing together with it. Animal control had some funds to put into it. MOAS, as you know, we don't have a thing with them really. We have a working handshake deal with MOAS where at a minimal cost they help to
Euthanize.
Yeah, euthanization basically. Our animals that we have to take care of, and we help them with disposing of their animals. So it's a handshake deal, and this would alleviate a lot of things that need to be taken care of. Anybody have a question about that one?
No, sir.
All right. With that, this is going to be a big topic, the health department building. That was based on the square footage thing. I'm sure, Mr. Doster, you're aware of how that cost came about per square foot. We don't have plans. We don't have architectural stuff. What we do have is a building that is built on a previous, I'm assuming, landfill.
Yep.
When it was dressed, it wasn't dressed correctly. When they shot we met with Ramjack. When they shot it, they were pulling out fresh bark. So I'm assuming when the site was prepped at 7 feet. So we have them come out. We're still waiting on a phone call from their engineer to decide what they're going to do. Best I can tell so far is it's what's called a global failure, which say you guys up there are the health department, they put the piers in. It's the area around it that's failing, so it's all. The issue we have with that is, as you can imagine, if the slab gets stabilized, it's still twisting and buckling, but if it gets stabilized, the earth underneath has dropped, and it's pulled all the plumbing. It's pulled floor drains, we have visible floor drains that we can see. We haven't smoke tested it, we haven't cameraed it. This is a beehive that we ain't shook yet. So this is in preparedness of if that building fails. It is over 20 years old, and I don't know what the relationship is with the state on this, but the state might be able to help with this. If not, that's why this is in here. This is a whole nother issue and problem that really hasn't been come to fruition yet. We're just putting it in here now because we still don't know what their engineer wants to do and what Ramjack wants to do. The preliminary thought was they're going to pier it every 5 feet in the whole building. That would be be an astronomical amount of money.
And they can stabilize a building, but that still does not solve our plumbing issues and stuff. If the building is stabilized, the slab is stabilized, you still have the plumbing underneath it that can still, if the earth is sinking underneath, which is doing, breaking loose the floor drains and stuff. Floor drains and then the other fixtures.
And we have spent money with Ramjack.
What they have previously done is all holding. All their footings, outside perimeters, and the hallways where they have them at, all that is holding. Now it's the areas outside of that perimeter, in between, like, we have an outside wall here, I think it's 12 to 13 foot over, we have another hallway. So they ran piers here, piers there, but now we're having trouble in between the piers, between the hallway. And only, if you're looking at the front of the building, only the front left of the building is the one that has piers underneath it. So now it's starting to progress more towards the right-hand side, Danielsville side of it.
Well, they've already made one repair under warranty. They came back in and redid something under warranty, so.
No cost to us at all.
Well, we're waiting on a bid now to see what it's gonna come back. We have no idea. We still haven't got it back, and we actually requested it again yesterday.
He's looking
And
at
that's the structure, the bid for structure stabilization?
structural, yes.
Any investigation on
We have not done the plumbing part.
chemically injecting the surrounding area by solidify?
They can't lift it.
They have talked about putting, that's why they didn't do it before, but injecting concrete stuff underneath it and everything else. But then if there's still deterioration down here, then that's a big anchor weight pulling the whole thing down.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta figure out.
Yeah.
They talked about
That's what
pushing
they're talking
foam.
about.
They talked about pumping foam in it, high density, low weight, but they wouldn't put any kind of guarantee with it because of it, the way it's grown in different areas. So I wasn't aware that they had pulled out, bark and different things until the second visit, and the guy who actually did the drilling came out and he remembered immediately. So, and it was wet bark, so couldn't have been in the ground that long.
It's, you don't wanna know how bad it is.
Yeah.
The water line going down to the, beside it, at 3 foot, it bags of trash.
Okay.
But this is not this board, but either way.
That's kind of, I mean.
And they just spent $160,000 remodeling that building.
Right. Yeah, they got some cash in it.
October 23, I think.
October 23. They spent $160,000 completely remodeling the interior of it. Didn't cost us anything. So you can imagine the frustrations.
That was after they come back and did their warranty work, then they waited probably a year and a half, did not have any more issues. And they come back and repair floors, painting, sheet rock, all that, everything. Now
we currently don't have sheet rock failure. The first call came when a toilet wasn't fitting right. We shimmed it. Thought, okay, something shifted. Got a call 2 weeks later, the toilet just shifted, or you just shimmed isn't working. So it moved a quarter of an inch in 2 weeks. There ain't a door in the building that doesn't hit the top and or not the bottom. So
I'm not disagreeing with it. What I will disagree with is that the 8,000 square foot at 1.5, that thing's light. Right, it's less than $200 a square foot for a new building. I mean, for commercial construction nowadays,
that's just an empty building.
Yeah.
That's just it going up with nothing in it.
Yeah. And by the time you finish it out and everything else, you're going to be well above that.
And I think the state is going to be.
I think what the state requires is actual just square footage, floor space. They come in and build out the difference on the funding, is the way I understood it, but nothing is written in stone yet.
Yeah, nothing. But we don't know.
Right now, we don't even have a place to put.
This is just the warning flare to let you know what's going on. It's not that we didn't hold it back or nothing. We came to the proper people as we were made aware of it. But we don't want to put information out that we don't know what we don't know. So, the senior center floor, that's basically LLB going over, eliminating a couple of trip hazards without grinding or anything of that nature, and making it a more manageable, floor for maintenance and cleanup and different things like that, giving it some texture. The senior center enclosure is that, I don't know how many of you guys have been there, but it's the back where they do the delivery. That's to enclose that to have a walk-in. And when they do the Meals on Wheels, I believe it's called. They have a remodel, Angela can talk about that a little bit here soon, but they have a remodel coming up to where those people can get the food from the front. We don't have random people just walking in and out of the kitchen. Like, we're bringing it up to standards of a commercial public use kitchen. The storage facility, that's a proposal for, I don't know if you guys know where our shop is there on W. Crawford, the old, what was it called?
ODMS station.
ODMS station. It's a lot next to us over the driveway that goes on Circle or Government Circle or something like that. We did a little bit, TC and I sat down earlier, at the end of last year, and said, what's some of the ways that we're spending money we shouldn't spend? So we sat down and looked at it. One of them was through our, I call them consumables, but it's what we use for paper, toilet paper, soap, all these different things. And we spoke with the Thornton distributor, and the guy, he has to make a living, I get it, but he individualized every department with his orders. And by combining all of our departments, we can save roughly 13 to 25%, depending on the volume, if we do quarterly shipments. That sounds great. We ain't know where to put it. We looked at the old jail probation thing. That wasn't feasible. And for the size that we need to store these things, we just couldn't find it. There was nowhere for us to put it. So the cost savings, we worked it out. What we worked out with Susan preliminary, we'll save roughly, I think it's $6,500 every quarter. So we could recoup this in less than 3 years. And going forward, not only that, but there's some of the things, and I don't know why certain departments use more than others that don't have the same people volume and different things, but it allows us to keep track of who's getting what. And
It's basically buying in bulk and you're looking for a building to hold the bulk.
That's right. That's all it is.
All right.
The handicap accessible doors for the Board of Elections office. I did some research on this. This was requested a while back, and at that time it was $13,300 some change. Now it's 20, and those doors, they're coming out soon anyway. I mean, they're going to have to be replaced. The hollow core part of it's broke, so we're going to change them out. And if we do, if we have to keep up with the standards that has been passed on to us, they got to be some kind of handicap accessible door, and we can't really hook up the power swinging thing on a corridor, a hollow core door. So,
gotcha.
30-foot scissor lift. We have used, since I've been here 2 years, we've used the schools, we've used Jones, and we've used the one from Strickland Hardware or whatever. We really do need one. The old gym is a good example. Around this building is another example. We had an unfortunate incident with one of our part-timers come off a ladder. Scissor lift would have stopped all that. We use a scissor lift, but we borrow it from other people. The schools needs repaired now, and to keep us from splitting the cost of something we partially use, it just doesn't make any sense. Using other contractor stuff seems silly to me. It's just a tool I think we could use. The air compressor for our shop, our 3-gallon pancake finally bit it. We're trying to jump into the 21st century, you know what I mean? Like, so that's where that is. The thermostat change outs for smart Wi-Fi's. Just to give you guys a ballpark figure, with Susan, when we discussed it originally, we were at $50-something thousand, and utility bills them up. We have put these in test spots currently. We shut them off for 8 hours. The systems go down, or they go up in temperature right now to say 75 or 78 degrees. causing them to cycle once or twice through the night, drops them back down about 3 hours before people start showing up. And we're basically cutting those utility bills by a third. So we're going to recoup that in a couple months. The other benefit that has to us is on our phones, our county phones, and on our computer, we know when a system isn't coming on early and a compressor isn't just banging and popping and the people think that it's the dumpster getting emptied or whatever. And it's 3 days before they call you to say we have a problem. There's, 2 of us with 30 plus buildings. We're not driving around every day checking to see if air conditioners are working. This will kind of give us some eyes on one of our most expensive repairs in the county. And with that, I don't know if you guys have any questions about any of that. Gotta have something. Come on.
Mr. Chairman?
Good explanation. The health department building didn't surprise me. That was, we had several buildings that built on top of that landfill. That
It shocked me.
not a good idea. We saved a lot of money, but that's a lot of grants for that. That's good.
The thermostats, I think maybe this building at one time, didn't we have like a company come in and swap out the lights or something and?
Just in this room. We have transitioned the rest of the building to LEDs and stuff, but this was a trial error here. I think Georgia Power might have had a company come in.
Okay, so whatever, my point is, whatever we did, stuff like this will not be in conflict. The AC type, I mean, we're not getting in a pickle between.
It's more of a supplement than it is a conflict.
I just make sure we're not.
Well, these are a Honeywell 9000s or something. I think we can set up our system and take 900 thermostats or something like that. So we've got a thermometer that came online with the food bank freezer a couple hours ago. So if that should fail, we'll know immediately and we can get on things,
That is the intent, that's my question. I got another question. Is the intent to globally set these temperatures or just be able to monitor them? Because I got one that's globally set in my office now and I do not like it.
Yeah, we can do that. We have that capability. We can open or close it to the parameters if somebody has the accessibility to it. You can also set the span on it, like you got 20 minutes at your comfort level and it's going back to what it was.
Yeah. So,
some of the biggest problems we have is we get breakers tripping because, this individual over here has had a coffee in the last 3 days and she's freezing, and this person over here is 55 years old and she's sweating at the drop of a hat. So she wants it at 66 and she's got a heater, blanket, something going, and then you got breakers tripping, and we're trying to recover some of that through the evening when nobody's here. Because they leave and forget it's on 68.
no,
They're not taking them.
And just for note, we have last year spent money on this building to go in and zone this building because it was all one air handling unit. It's a little bit unfortunate. It's still that way. The air handling unit, it used to be this all the way around one thermostat. So we went in and zoned it, put zone dampers in, and then now offices have their own. The only problem is our units are so old, you either got hot or cold. You can't get both. So what you're really doing is if you're too hot, the other office can literally cut their damper off. It just keeps the hot air from coming in. It's not going to give them any cool air. And that's something that we will have to address at some point, but I think we'll outlive the building.
Yeah, we had that issue in here this morning. Me and Christine walked in there where she was already in there, and she said, "What's that noise?" And it was actually a damper being closed. It was already cool enough in here with nobody in here. I mean, it was whistling because the other ones were needing the cool air and this one did not. So we had it. I knew as soon as somebody.
There was no energy savings in what we've done. It was more of trying to make the temperature different through various people in various offices. One office is froze, one office is burning up. It was really bad on the courtroom side down there. The security office was freezing while the rest of the offices were burning up. So anyway, we've already took a lot of measures to fix some of that, but this is the only measure, and I'm really proud of the initiative that Paul and TC's taken to actually try to save some money in this process. This is
Now, the ones we have out there, they'll call for AC, then they go off. The rare opportunity here that you guys have where you need heat and air in the same day, it's not very often, but it happens. It'll switch to heat. And the one that we have in the health department, because they have a high volume of different medications and vaccines and different things in there, they only have a certain temperature range that they can be in. That one, if somebody forgets and leaves the door open when they walk out or whatever, I'll get an alert, it tells me, and then it'll switch to cool or it'll switch to heat or whatever it has to do on its own. So these should be able to do that. You would just only be requesting a temperature, and that's it. That's the goal. I can't understand why anybody would be against this. So for some reason, I had to come talk to you all about it before we could do it.
You'll learn, my friend, you'll learn. But thank you, Paul. Good job. If there's no more questions.
All right.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Alan, I'm gonna change this up, because yours is gonna take a lot longer. Tracy's got an election she's doing, so I need to get her. I'm gonna just swap you up a minute. I'm gonna do Tracy, and then I'll do senior center, because those are quick and easy, and to keep from punishing them any further.
Before you start, can you give us an explanation of why we got the Public Service Commission election all by itself?
Well, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. You're gonna have to contact the Secretary of State about that.
I talked to our representative. Obviously, this is a cost for us, and it's a nuisance for y'all whenever we have these
Extremely cost.
off-cycle elections.
Yes, it's a very large cost, and then we're looking at possibly runoff.
Yeah.
So I'll touch on that a little bit. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me to come talk to you today, and I do want to thank each of you for your prayers for my grandson. He's supposed to be coming home today. We just now wait that 7 to 10 day frame to find out about my biopsy that they have taken. But I'm trusting the Lord that everything's okay with it. But y'all just continue to remember him and my son, that journey that we have to travel now. I have prepared for you a document just showing some of the things that we may, we've never done a SPLOS. The Elections Board has never been included in a SPLOS before. I've checked around to some of the other counties that are close to us, and none of them really have that, except for, I think, Barrow County. When I talked with them, the Board of Commissioners there, they include it in with their funding. They don't have it separated, and she just gets what she needs, a certain amount allotted each year, and she will replace her machines or what have you. Clark County is looking into something, I believe, a little bit more, because I think they're wanting to build a new building for their elections. So I know this is short on here. This is what I come up with. What we want to do, right now we are in a 20-year bond with Dominion Voting, the state of Georgia is. This is going into, we had the new equipment started in we got it in 2020 and implemented in 2021. With that being said, the state, whenever they come out, well, let me back that up. Whenever we have a Secretary of State to come in office, a new individual, they can change the way the voting system in Georgia is. That race is on the ballot next year. We will have a new Secretary of State. We do not know if we will continue with what we have, or he or she may come in and want to change it up altogether. If that's the case, then the state, they will, fund what they feel is necessary that we need to have to take care of our voters in each county. Anything over that, then the county is responsible for. So that's what we're looking at if we get a new system. If we keep the system that we've got now, of course there's wear and tear on it. And I'd like to have some type of system that we had, that we rotated those that equipment that's used more heavily, like our early voting machines or our whole precinct, that we use those 12 machines up there. There's more volume on them, to change those out every so often. Now, I've given you just based off 6 years what it would cost per year. Now, that's not including the front door, but that's if it's under the grounds and all building department. That just kind of gives you the figures of what each piece of equipment cost, the maintenance of them, the license fees. That contains anything from our pull pad printers that where you're checking in to the actual voting machines and the scanner. That's all that included there. And like I said, this is something new, so anything that y'all have, if we're considered, any suggestions that you have, I'm not sure how SPLOST works with this, with our office, or how we would go about doing it, but I'm sure that I could get a lot of guidance from you all. I would like to add, too, when you were talking earlier to the other departments, one thing I believe that in my 35 years here, I have noticed that the one thing that every time we have a SPLOST on the ballot, this is the number one question that is asked. Why are my taxes? Well, it's not really a question, it's a statement. I'm not going to vote for this because this is a tax. I'm taxed to death. I don't need another tax. I think this is where the paper can come in, is really get that out there to the public that this is a continuance of a tax that we already have. And there were the other departments putting in what they have, to let the public know. Thankfully, it's always passed, but I try to tell them, okay, if you've got a resident, or you've got someone coming from Hartwell going to Athens, and they are thirsty, and they want to stop at Golden Pantry, and they want to get them a drink, that tax dollar is here. That's a tax, it's a fair tax that everybody is going to pay. I think that's what the public needs to understand. Because they come in, I got my tax bill today, it's gone up $500, I'm not voting, I'm going to vote no. They don't understand what it's actually for. And in my office, that's about all I can tell them. It's just about the example given them from the store traveling through the county. Because I'm nonpartisan, I'm not supposed to have a say in either way. But I am a taxpayer too, and that does concern me. So I think the main thing is just getting it out to the public, what that tax is for. I totally agree with the fire department. When he was saying earlier, right where we live, I can be serviced by Collins or Danielsville. So my insurance company is going to look at both the GPS and look at what that helps out with. But going back to the elections part, the election that we have going on now, we have had 175 people to vote. We have over 24,000 voters. So that is, and that's not, there's some counties that haven't gotten to 100 yet. And we're in our last week. We have today and tomorrow, and then election day next Tuesday.
At the cost of roughly what total?
Oh gosh, easily $12,000 to $15,000 at least, because the state says we have to mandate those polling precincts for 3 people, at least 3 people. I have 3 people in all my precincts except for my larger ones, and I've got 4 or 5, and I'm trying to train some new people, because that's one thing I've run into this time is, vacation time, and things. I've had a hard time getting poll workers. And that's something that we're going to have to look at in the future as well. Because of the way the ballot is, there is a race on the Democratic side that will possibly go into a runoff. If that runoff takes place, it is held in July. We have just a few weeks to get everything lined up and ready to go. That is going to cost even more if we have all 12 precincts open. And I've talked to Mr. Pruitt about this, and there is a code that will allow us, a lot of counties are looking at it, that will allow us to have one voting location on election day. We will still have our early voting, but on election day, we could use our office as the voting center. That, like I said, that is something that you have to meet different criteria to reach that and have that without having a lawsuit filed against you. And one of them, we take our numbers, and you have to have less than 1% of voters that have turned out. And our magic number is 221 voters. If we have 221 voters that vote during the early voting and election day, then we could have one voting center. If it goes to 222, we've got to open up all 12. So that's something, keep that in mind. And we're trying to let the public, and I've got everything ready. My board will decide when we certify the election if we're going to move forward with that. And I think that we will. I'm speaking on my behalf. I mean, I think that's something they're going to look at because of the cost that it will save the county. As far as the building goes, like I said, the door, as far as SPLOST will be considered in that. I will touch more on this because I know we've got time that we're discussing the SPLOST right now. But when we talk about our budget, I do have some things that I would like to present to you all and get your opinions and get you some things that our board has mentioned in the past. about.
Is it building related?
Kind of, it's going,
I mean, the reason I'm asking.
consolidation possibly,
Okay.
but I want to address that. Like I said, that's our board decision.
Okay.
But we've got to look at there's 3 different options that we can go. But I'm gonna, I'll have to have public hearings for all that. But as far as the building goes, our sanctuary part that we have over there that's attached, I use that part of the building for all of our logic and accuracy testing. Every machine that goes prior to them going out, we have to do a testing on each one of them. And that's where that's held. And all of my training is held in that room. So I really would love to keep hold of that room. I know that there's other departments that need the location and stuff, but if I have no other place to do my training. I have no other place. I'm thankful for the space that we got. It's a huge difference from what we used to have prior, but I would have to figure out how to get all those machines out and test them.
We're in a think tank right now on how to make some adjustments.
Right.
We'll probably present that idea to the board in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But the one right now that we're landing on, well, I don't want to say, but I don't think it's going to upset you near as, I think you'll like this idea, but we're still pondering how it works and how it's not going to work.
And that's the same way with us mentioning the consolidation. That building is one of the options that will play a major role in that.
Gotcha.
But we'll talk about that later. I don't want to tie up your time with that now. But do you have any questions about what I presented as far as SPLOST goes?
Well, first off, thank you. And let me tell you why we wanted to include the SPLOST, or at least from my perspective. Christina may have a different one, Susan may have a different one. You're right, elections affect everybody in our county, but not everybody in our county is a taxpayer.
Right.
My perspective was that a SPLOST does affect everybody in the county because everybody buys something.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's within our county. That's why we promote shop local. But also, by removing $152,000 worth of burden off the taxpayers and putting it onto the sales, made it more fair for the taxpayers.
Right.
To see where their money goes. And companies that does business services, heat and air companies out of other counties that come here to do work or whatever, or somebody passing through, perfect example, you're picking up that dollar that pays and takes off taxpayers.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, and it is going to be really hard for the Board of Commissioners or myself or whoever does the presentation to the public in the newspaper to have people understand what happens if it don't pass.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to shore up a better foundation for the ones that do pay property tax and show them where the offset can come in the fair tax. So you was right. I'm glad you touched on that because it's very important to understand it. Out of the 30,000 people, not all 30,000 of them own parcels of land. Just trying to shift the burden and giving you a fair.
And I appreciate the opportunity for me to be included in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also I want to say thank you for taking the initiative to look at a way to cost saving. We can't control the state, and Caleb's heard me say this before. This is another one of those unfunded mandate elections. And that goes back to, the other topic we had about the state unfunded mandates. It's going to cost us $15,000 for this election with 125 voters. The next election could possibly have less in July, another 15 or 20,000. That's all state unfunded mandates that taxpayers have to pay. So thank you for thinking outside the box and saying, look, we're going to look at a centralized hub. I think that's a great idea, and the taxpayers of this county should appreciate that thought process. So thank you very much. Questions?
You mentioned consolidation, y'all looking at precinct.
There's a possibility, and the only reason I'm looking at it now is because I'm having such a hard time getting poll workers. Right now, for this coming up election, I'm having to get, which the law allows us to get people, residents from other counties. Right now, I have 2 from Clark County and 1 from Oglethorpe County that have agreed because they're related to somebody now that is in the county, and that county doesn't need them right now for whatever, and then they're allowing us to have them, to take them. So That's one good law that they did come up with, but that's very costly. But when you're looking at consolidation, there's several different ways that you look at it. But you gotta keep in mind that you have got to have a building large enough to put all these, if you go down to 5, District 4 goes from one end of the county to the other. Where am I gonna put them? That's something we have to look at. So we're looking, you know.
I would like to be part of that, and I would like to be part of that, you know, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, so I can get the information back to them. And I would like to see, obviously, it's gonna be based off numbers, and you would use your highest polling place, which is gonna be 2020 election, 2024 election, and see which, maybe not having to consolidate the whole district, but maybe just dropping the pick the low hanging fruit, sorry.
Right, and so just like now, Hull is our largest precinct. They have probably over 5,400 people there. Majority of them, we do have come in and vote early, but then they've got on election day that they're going in. Well, that building is just about too small now for that number. So we're looking at, okay, if I have to split that up, where am I gonna put them? I like to keep all of them together for District 3, but I know things, you know.
Sure.
But what my goal, what I'm in the back, and I haven't really went into a big discussion with my board about it, but what I would like to do is, you know, if I got a committee together of some sort with different people throughout the county, just maybe 3, 5 people, and let's study this and see what the impact is going to be, cost effective, how it's going to impact the voter. That's my main concern, how it's going to impact that voter. I don't want to I don't want to say that there's some that's going to say, well, I disenfranchise that voter. That's not what I'm doing here.
Yeah, no.
I want to make it what's better for that voter and what's better for our county, you know, as far as consolidation of votes goes.
Yeah, after rethinking that process, it may be something that maybe a couple of board commissioners would rather set in on.
Right, exactly.
And we probably give them a preliminary to say, okay, we're really looking at more in this area because of, you know, Shiloh being very small, or
and there are several
Mill
counties.
District being small, those particular commissioners sit in on that conversation because it affects their district.
There are several counties now that are going to one vote center that's located. Most of them are in the elections office. I'm not sure how the public would respond to that, but that would hit cost effective right there. But that's something, like I said, we have to have public hearings. We've opened up to the public, have them come in, get their opinions, and get what they think about all that.
What percentage of voters voted early in the 2024, do you know?
I would say, I'd have to go back and get my definite total, but I'd say the early voting is probably around 69, 70%. That's right. I wish we could go like Coney County, they vote over 90% early voting, you know, and they always do, don't understand how and why that happens, and they'll do that number.
Thank you for considering that. It's something to thank you very much. You're gonna get some flack, but one thing I'd encourage you to do is, as you put different proposals out there for us to consider, show us what the cost savings would be.
Right, each way. And what I would have to do is I'd have to go to Atlanta to talk to reinforcement there. They would have to figure out our maps, what they would look like, and where would be the best place to put the people at, to keep everything statistically in proportion with everything. So that's something that we would look at. It's not a very quick process. It would take 6 to 7 months. If this is something that my board decided that we want to move forward on, then we would do that, and we would start. So hopefully that we could get it ready and finished and ready to go next year. Because next year is what's the word? It's an election.
Scheduled elections.
Yes, it's scheduled elections, and it's my mind just went blank what we call that year. But that's it. It's midterm. Very good, thank you.
I couldn't think of it, I'm sorry.
Midterm elections, and we feel that that's going to be just as big as 2024 was.
It will be.
I'd like to, if we're going, instead of waiting for this door process and everything else, since whenever they do decide, maybe we'll put that door issue into the budgetary instead of, this SPLOST will not become effective until July 1 next year.
Yeah.
So that might be after the next year's election, so I don't know if that might be a possibility or not,
other ways
in the budget somewhere.
There'll be other things that come up that take that dollar figure away.
So that's a thought.
I'm encouraged with all about this consolidation stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think from a technology standpoint, I
Nobody
know you
wants
can't
to
fix
appreciate
this, but in my opinion, you put your name, your address in, it pulls up on your sample ballot. So, I mean, it just seems, you check in with your ID now, and so it's just, from a technology standpoint, I don't see why it can't be. But the concern I would have on this is, and we might need to check with council, is, the thought process of maintenance, SPLOST are really capital projects.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, I'm not saying we can't consider some of it, but some of it might need to be split out to
Exactly. I
stay in
understand.
general budget.
I understand.
Good point. Mr. Kurt?
Good.
Mr. May?
Good, thank you.
All right, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rouse, yours will be quicker than Alan's and Shelley's.
You promise that?
That wasn't a question, that was a statement.
That was a statement, that's right.
Since Paul's already taken care of a lot of it, and this is one of the problems, and thank you, gentlemen, for, letting me come in every place. I will tell you that she is improving. She wants to be back yesterday, and the doctor says maybe tomorrow, so here I am. We're sort of like Tracy, we've never had a SPLOST, so we're flying sort of by the seat of our pants. But I talked with Todd a few weeks ago about 3 issues that our seniors had come up with. Paul touched on one of them, the 1994 building, that quite frankly, when you walk in and you look up at the ceiling tiles are an embarrassment, and the floor is right behind it. So I'd mentioned to TC that, could he give me some budget numbers, how much would it cost? So I didn't know he was putting it in his budget, but you've got it before you. The other one was the portico out back. That's been a real concern of mine because that has become our back door. Our back door comes in from the kitchen. So one day last week, Charlotte's sitting there with a big tray of hot food. Somebody comes through the back door, walks through the kitchen. As she comes back around, here comes that same individual back through the kitchen with a plunger.
Yeah. Okay.
And, we've tried locking the door and that doesn't work. The issue becomes, and it ties down to the last one, is that the other way to get into the back of the building is a door into the main room that's across from the greenhouse. But in order to get to it, you got to walk around through the grass, and nobody does it. So closing the portico to do several things. One, it sort of eliminates that open access. The other is that it solves the problem of when you're bringing stuff in and out, you prop the door, and every fly in Madison County seems to find its way in, except the one that's in Todd's office. Things like the home-delivered meal bags are cleaned every day. You clean them, you stuff them, they go out, they go in a car, they go in the back of an SUV, they get put on the ground, they come back in through that same back door and get put on the work tables to prep lunch. And no matter how many times you tell folks, please leave them outside or please put them here, they're going to put them where they've been putting them for the last 20 years, and we don't talk about that. But those are some of the reasons that, appreciate Paul and TC coming up with some figures quickly, and I apologize that you're getting it twice, but
It's all right.
now you know. The third item is the request from the seniors. Now, what they really want is to come off the back of the building. Now, what they really want, of course, is the $11 million building, but, I did tell them that to come next year. Is to come off the back of the building and build a wing. Now, if you get into where the septic lines run and all that, probably is not going to work. But coming off that back door from the main room, if we could put a walkway from the parking lot and to that door and to that door to what I originally called a gazebo, and then I discovered that a gazebo is the shape of the one out here somewhere, and we don't really need a gazebo. We need, well, a pergola, but a pergola doesn't have a roof on it, and that defeats the purpose of getting some shade. So I called it, for lack of anything better, as a pavilion, but a pretty pavilion. So that the seniors can go out. We already go out. We put the picnic tables there. Last year I bought some, literally I bought the umbrellas, so that we've got some umbrellas that will give us some shade. But they go out and play cornhole and bocce ball, and they love to go sit on nice days and watch the kids in the splash pads. So having a place that Jimmy with his high-tech walker and Sarah with her, I'm not sure what that thing is that she uses to get around with, and the rest of us old folks that's balancing as good as it used to be, could have a walkway to a place to sit. The estimate that I've got, if we build it ground up, now there's kits galore that you can also do, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $30,000. So all told, the seniors would be tickled to death with having $100,000, and I don't care where you put it in the slots, that could go to spruce up and look at the building. Now, I will tell you, I just sent the budget request. Some of you may not know, we have what is known in the senior center world as the state wish list. And it's money that's allocated from the state out of the last fiscal year budget, this current fiscal year budget and the rollover. It comes down to the AAA, and they dole it out pretty much how they please. So we get to send them a wish list. And in that wish list, one of the things that the seniors wanted was curtains. If you haven't been into the senior center on hot afternoons, it is wall-to-wall glass on the rec department side, two sides, and it gets warm. Plus, the blackout curtains would allow us to use the AV equipment much easier. So we put that in the request, along with a few other smaller but desperately needed items that really don't fit anywhere in a budget. And if we can get them from the state, we'll take everything we can get.
So you think the $100,000 will cover, keeping in mind it's over a 6-year period?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah.
But you think that's a good firm number for everything you guys need? All right. Well, I greatly...
with the assistance of Paul and PC, who know a heck of a lot more about it, because, shopping on Google, that tells me they're about in the right place.
Well, ma'am, thank you, and thank you for the update. I talked to Ambria last week. She is anxious to get back. She is healing well.
And I can't wait for her to get back.
Yeah.
Right now, we have county budget, the end of the state fiscal year reports, and there are times when my life jacket has a hole in it.
Commissioner Dawson, do you have any questions? Commissioner Kirk?
Thank you.
All right, y'all take care. Thank you. All right, Alan. Which one of y'all we think is gonna be quick?
Alan?
Oh, really? Y'all got 30 minutes, so y'all better figure it out.
I got 28, you got 2.
All right.
We'll go over the easy one first. We'll go over transfer station spots. Sure. We got the scale replacement. I think it was put in, I think, Mary Beth said 11 or 12, I think. So just for backup, another 6 years or so, it could be, because that's the only scale we have, people coming in and going out on the same scale. So it's not something we have to run that. And then the equipment of replacing the skid steer and the mini X, but we are actually in the process of trying to get those replaced now. So that one might get to go away, but we would not ever hurt. I mean, still 6 years down the road, it does not hurt to leave some money in there for equipment problems and everything else. So that's the extent we got on the transfer station. Everything else is always budgetary stuff.
Just if you, the the final turn-in part, we need to X out the quotations and just leave it as equipment,
Yes.
because if you leave it in there for splash, you have to use it for what, like.
Yes, on all these.
Yeah.
Nothing on SPOS will be
Okay.
listed
Yeah,
like that.
good. Yeah, it has to be all generalized, so that way you can, it's not pinpointed to a specific item or whatever else.
There's gonna be, just for the board to know, we are in the process that one's supposed to be your day.
Yes.
We got some issues with equipment, and we had to get a piece for over there, and, I agree, it'll be relabeled, but it will be used for over there. We sort of let the transfer station get a little bit dilapidated on equipment. They always get hand-me-downs, and we've run out of hand-me-downs. So just to be honest.
No more, that's right. Road Department 2026 request. The first one's gonna be the additional equipment and stuff. This was for more of the water and road department usage. When Rodney's not using it, we could use it. The biggest one is gonna be another traco. Right now, we do have two loaders, track loaders, so that's not an issue. We do have two rubberized wheel loaders. Me and Rodney was talking about that yesterday. He'll have to have one of those for moving pipe around. I said, we got two of those. The biggest one is an excavator. We only have one big excavator, and that's our biggest. We're needing it over here, and then we're needing it over here, just clearing the trees and stuff. We had to have it on Johnson Bridges Road, digging out all those areas, trouble spots and stuff, re-putting down gravel. But we also needed over there clearing, I had a guy available to clear the, back behind the EMS station, stumping all that and everything else. Can't be two places at one time, so we just reshuffle around, do this job, and reshuffle that job. But when Rodney does, if he does decide to do some of those small ones, that is definitely, an excavator will be definitely needed. And the other one we only have one of would be the skid steer. We only have one skid steer at the road department.
So how big an excavator is that gotta be?
That one we will decide. Mine, right now, the 317, I'm gonna say maybe, we don't wanna get too much bigger. We can't haul too much bigger on our low boy and everything.
So it'd be,
But
maybe a little bigger than what
probably
we
just a
got.
little bit bigger, I would think so. That way it would be multi-use if we need it.
So we're not getting anything huge.
No. We don't have no way to haul that. We'd have to go and do low boy and all that other stuff if we go too much bigger.
And just for note, over the past current splosh, we have acquired really good equipment. We have removed 1988 equipment, and we do have a lot of we're better than we've ever been, thanks to the 2020 splosh, but we're not where we need to be. That's where the continuation splosh will come in to keep it off the taxpayers.
Yep. And that's the other wish list, 6-way bladed dozer for the finishing product of when you're digging in, just refinishing the lay of the land and stuff like that. They said that's a lot easier. Rodney's operated one of those a good bit. Skid steer I've already talked about. Boring machine we talked about with Rodney, about the different sizes. That's a straight boring machine, but then you got the different size attachments that you gotta have for which size bore that you're gonna do and everything else. But that's all down the road when we decide, if we decide to do stuff like that.
Alan, I want to touch base on that. If approved, we currently run pans, and they're old 13s, and not 13-year models, but 813s, 613s, and they've been they ain't made them in 20 years, and that's what we currently pour ditches with a lot of times, because it takes
all the dirt roads are small enough.
So these 6-way blades is going to come in to start doing our ditch work as we phase out the old pans. Luckily, we was able to purchase one of the 13s back a couple of years ago, and but we're still piecemeal.
Yes.
And we're trying to get to the part where we're not. We're saving time, saving money.
Yep. The next one would be the road tractors and stuff, our Bulldogs that we have. The ones we have is our Deutsch ones. Terry helped us out going to look at those and everything. We want to purchase those. They still haven't been great. I don't know what we'll go with, but in the next 6 years, probably sooner than that, we're gonna have to start replacing them one at a time as they're happening. Right now, since we've deleted the depth out of them, they have done better this last year and everything. So hopefully we'll keep having good luck with them. We've had little minor issues here and there. So that's probably gonna be the next issues y'all have hearing. I want just me riding out this morning, Grass is extremely growing and
It's climbing.
we've been down. We have been down cleaning up limbs and everything else, so that's probably going to be the next public issues y'all hear coming up, but we are getting back on that, so. See, paddle band, that's what we probably talked about a while ago. Gravel, we spend roughly $300,000+ a year on gravel. So that's just not, that cost is not going down either. Like I said, last splosh, we were probably paying $7 a ton for all the way through for almost everything. Right now, it's $21 to $25 a ton for the same products and everything, so that's more than triple.
We
So
have,
that cost is definitely not going down.
yeah, and we, just so you know, when Alan was putting these numbers together with Christina, and myself and Susan, we did take into account the T-Splosh. So you're seeing money that offsets, because the catastrophic situation that we could get into is if one or the other fail. So that's why you're seeing it the way you're seeing it. You're seeing a partial out of T-Splosh, a partial out of Splosh, just in case.
That's right. And that's where we get into some of these other ones, the LMIG funding. That's a bunch of our road projects that we do, but we still got to do the 30% match. So we still got those every year. And some of these other fundings that they are coming available, some of them are a match, some of them are not a match. And we go after every one we get a chance for. That goes back to the culvert, material and installation. And the last 22 and 23, we had those 9 roads each year wash out. We did go after those fundings that were available, and we did get both of those years' fundings done. That basically paid for almost all the materials and stuff. So that was a big fortune, and I could hit, if it's not a statewide declaration, those fundings are not available.
Correct.
So then we're having to eat all those projects real fast, and those, a lot of box culverts, and we still got 1 or 2 that's on the need list, that's possibility needing to be replaced already. So we're just praying not for another storm, but if they do hit, guess what? We're going to include them in with that storm and everything.
So just, no, you're praying for the declaration.
Yeah, well, I'm not praying for the storm.
Yeah, not praying for the storm. That's why I want to make sure we're clear.
That's right.
Also, on that note, we haven't run the exact numbers, guys, but me and Christina's run ballpark numbers. Somewhere over the past 4.5 years, we've accumulated, or I don't say accumulated, we have went after and received probably somewhere between $25 and $30 million worth of grants. So for the public out there that sees all this stuff being done, and they wonder about the tax bills, remember only about $12,600,000 is actually tax bills. A lot of what they see done is because we're taking the initiative to pull that kind of funding along with Splosh and T-Splosh and how important those is. As Christina said this morning, she said, what happens if it fails? I said, we will back up 30 years. So this is how important this is. We will back up 30 years as a county because taxpayers could not.
There's no way. And that's what Todd was talking about a while ago. Yes, this number's still in there. We want to keep it in there, just like in 2 more years when we vote on T-Splosh again. If it does not pass, all of our extra road stuff that we're doing is completely, we're back to like Todd was 30 years ago, back to ground zero. Right, next one, bridge repairs. Well, we got a bid out right now for 3 bridges. The one that we have currently closed on Rogers Mill Road. The 2 bridges that's on Albert Danielsville Road, they are almost in the same condition. Could be, but we got a bid out right now coming back July 2nd. Y'all will vote on it July 7th at y'all's meeting to get that one done. So we're hopefully going to have a 30-day turnaround once that document's signed. We know of one company, Chris, he met with them at 10 o'clock this morning. So we're hoping we're going to get a few more bids on that. Hopefully that's going to come back at a good price. That's the pylon encasements going up on every one. I think Roger Mill has 16 of them that has to be done, and the other 2, I think, have 12 each that have to be done. So.
Does Chris have a ballpark on what that's going to cost? I mean, just a...
No, it could range. His early estimate, if he got the state numbers, he thinks we could have got this one done. Just Roger Mill, what we're hoping for, I was hoping for underneath the $100,000 mark, just so you could approve it.
Yeah.
We'd have to do the process, whatever else, but he don't think we're gonna get state pricing because there's so few people that are actually doing this type of work around the area and stuff.
So that's about if it was 100 and you got 3 bridges, that's 300,000 right there.
Could be. So, but we do not know, since I've been up there, we've not done anything. Some of our bridges have been neglected. Me and Irene tried to get into the portal. They come out and inspect our bridges every 2 years. I guess it was 6, 8 years ago. Me and Irene, they had password after password after password. We tried calling them. How can we get in to view these things? They never could. But now it's a little bit easier. So and Chris is gonna help us out a bunch, just keeping us informed. Oh, these are easy repairs. These are ones that we can do. Some painting and stuff like that, real easy stuff, and he knows a bunch of that. So he's been a real lifesaver, along with Paul in my maintenance department. They have been lifesavers for me, keeping me from being stretched any better than I already am.
Who's he meeting with today?
Chris, which?
Something coastal waterproofing. There was lots of things, McGovern.
Yeah, I would start with him.
But if you know of any others, we'll be glad to reach out to them. He's got the former bridge guy that come out and helped us get this process started, telling them exactly what we had to have. He had 2 people. He was a former DOT person. He's really familiar with this process. He said he had 2 people, one from Alabama, I know. So hopefully we can get some good bids on that to help us out.
Gentlemen, I apologize, I keep interrupting, but I'm trying to talk to the newspaper also, is what you're gonna end up with is somewhere between $300,000 to $400,000 for 3 bridge repairs, and the public is not gonna see any difference in the bridge. There's not gonna they're gonna drive across it and say, what happened? These are the things that we can't anticipate we have to budget for, so that's for newspaper.
Also on that, Roger Mills, we're actually gonna get all 3 of them tested. Chris has got a contact with DOT, as soon as their record machine gets fixed, we're gonna pour those. We think the strength of how old those bridges are, 59 and 61, 62 on the other ones, we think the strength of that concrete is gonna be a whole lot more, so hopefully we'll get postings off of all 3 of those. That's what we're hoping for once the pylon and casings go in. Because he says there's nothing wrong with the actual bed part of the bridge at all.
Is this gonna take us back to the 18-ton?
Hopefully, but no rating at all. Hopefully, we're going to eliminate the ratings completely. Okay. That's what we're hoping for.
But right now, we're not just closed, but we're at a reduced rate.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Another thing is, Alan and I have been applying for DOT funding to do bridge replacements and repairs. But I think now, with the age of so many bridges, we're not able to keep up with that funding cycle. Like we've done, Dove Drake is on there, and then the Jogging Down Bridge is on there. So we have been doing local bridges, but
every chance they tell us to put another one on there, we're gonna have another one on there. So.
Yeah.
But from what I talked to, the former DOT guy and Chris, they think if we redo this, he said he don't see why we can't get another 30, 40 years out of the Roger Mill Bridge, which I was just go ahead and get it on the replacement list. But we'll find that all out after we get all the testing and all that done. Once the engineers come back out and retest the load ratings and stuff. So I'm shooting for a couple weeks after school. I was shooting for before school started to get Roger Mill open back up, but it looks like we might be a little bit after a couple weeks. Hopefully we can get in there, get that one. That's the top of the priority. They have to do that one first.
When school start back?
August 1st.
August 6th.
6th. Okay. First day.
What are you doing?
Well, yep, we've been on the calendar. All right, that's all I got.
My question, gentlemen.
Before they cut something.
Very good.
Mr. Doctor, any questions?
No, I mean, I understand that, I do understand the need of how much backlog we have on road stuff, but I do, part of our conversation of getting the T-Splosh introduced was to take some pressure off the Splosh so we can focus on facilities. It's all county, I get it, but it's, like some of the stuff Shelley's gonna talk about is, it's been 50 years in the making, so.
There you go.
I think we're still gonna be able to do some of it. I don't, like I was talking about a minute ago, if you move your EMS station, you take that one, you can turn it into that, and you can do away with the house and this, that, and the other. I think it's gonna be a bite-by-bite process versus just a clean sweep. and move. One of the things me and Alan talked about yesterday was the pumps, the gas pumps. It's saying, you know, okay, they're far enough out of the way to save $500,000. If we needed to, we could fence it off, whatever, leave it on that side while moving everything. Because it's not a real big deal, but most of them fuel up coming in anyway from the evening because they run out during the day. So it's, I mean, we've talked
Fuel pumps
so
need to
many
be on the
different-
list somewhere down the road,
Yeah,
though,
they're gonna
because
have to be.
how old they are, how old the tanks are and stuff, so.
Yeah.
Well, eventually I put those on there. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We got a double whammy. I mean, we're doing this now, we got T-Splosh gonna come back up, when would this say?
It's like 2 years.
I think it's 2 years.
Yeah, and then, wow. All right, young lady. You're doing good.
Let me a little bit.
Time frame wise, I'm still not liking the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So from what, let me see, y'all should see, look at this really long list, right? Okay. That Christina sent you. We sat down, kind of touching base on some projects overall arching for the entire rec department, all the parks, everything, like Derek was previously saying, everything is outdated, needs to be updated. A big part of each park is stormwater issue, which we've been trying to get the TOBO maps and everything to kind of determine water flow, especially at Sammy Haggard with the Land and Water Grant. But
that's in process.
Yeah. Yeah. So with all of that, each facility, we can just kind of start with the first one, which is Diamond Hill, and then go from there.
All right.
So Diamond Hill, all of this is taken from the master plan for leisure services. So the task numbers out to the side, obviously at Diamond Hill, stormwater is at the very top. The drainage.
I'm sorry, so this is not all of the master plan list? This is
No,
like
this
3
is
out
just
of
a
12
portion.
things.
Yeah.
This is just a portion
This is a bite.
of it, a very, very small portion of the master plan. So, but this is just some to start with for SPLOST funding and to get things rolling, to really show the community that, hey, we hear what you're saying and see the needs, so we're going to try to accomplish small projects to get to the big picture. So Diamond Hill, again, the biggest thing is stormwater there. Parking is crazy. If you've been by there anytime we have activities, it's gravel lots, so there's no actual designated parking spaces. So we're asking to really pace those parking spaces out. I know that's going to take a lot, but and then new park signage. So all of and through the master plan, we talked about branding, and right now we kind of have different logos throughout. Where right now, we use the NC that's from the high school we have. Just some of our signs, some of them look a certain way, others look differently. Each of our parks have all different actual name signs. So with this, we would like to, for all of our parks, put a new sign that is cohesive to everything. So when they see this, if it's a giant brick sign that says Diamond Hill Softball Complex, they know if they see another sign that says Cliff Miles Park, they're part of the same department because everything's uniform. So Diamond Hill.
Sammy Haggard's got to have one.
Yeah, Sammy Haggard definitely needs a new sign.
Awful.
But with Diamond Hill, the cost estimates, again, all of that is taken from the master plan. It is everything sorted by the priority list, with high, so 1 to 3 years, and then we have medium, 3 to 6 years. Some potential funding sources, a lot of that you see, it says SPLOST next to it. Obviously, we can't accomplish everything, but we want to try to accomplish some of it.
What I have broken out in a separate sheet, so the chairman, Alan, Christina, Angela, and Susan, we all sat down and kind of went through this list and picked out a few things. So what you have is what I'm requesting, but then also at the same time, the items that we're kind of really pushing for is definitely the new signage and figuring out about the paved parking for that facility, for Diamond Hill. I've talked with Alan, we can do some of the laser grading, or the county can do some of the laser grading of the fields and figuring out the stormwater, what we can do with that. But really our big push for those is to figure out that parking situation, and then get new signage for there.
Yeah, if I'm,
Question?
just for the Board of Commissioners, yeah, all 5 of us has been together with this, and I think
we
I gotta
said 3.
commend a lot of people on it. I think we did take the most impactful right out the gate, the most needed immediate fixes over 6 years. That's what I mean, immediate.
Yes.
All 5 of y'all done a phenomenal job in many areas. Angela was part of it. I think it's about as close as we can get and what we could afford. Let's put it that way. But anyway, questions, gentlemen?
Any questions on Diamond Hill?
Huh?
I said, any questions on Diamond Hill?
No.
Yes, okay. Briar's Landing is next. That's one that,
What use does that get?
we, as far as the rec department, we don't use it. As far as the community, more or less it gets used by homeless individuals. Some people do go in and they do put in their kayaks and everything. But for the most part, it's just seen as like a party area. There's no monitoring of it because it is down in a hole. You can't easily see it from the road. So it's just...
It's remote.
It's very, yes, very remote.
Remote cameras a possibility?
We would have to figure out how to do the cellular data.
This is problematic to me, because it's a problem, it's lightly used. We got to either fix this and get off the list, period, in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, I agree it's not just used, but for those people that do use it in certain groups, it's a pretty good deal.
When the right people, or when the people use it correctly.
Yeah, use it correctly. But,
Yeah.
I mean, there's youth groups, Boy Scout, some of these folks that's doing that, and they don't want to go and use the folks on the river that charging, and which I can understand, because they want to do, and they take, and a lot of those groups are actually taking care, doing some cleanup and stuff on the river, so I hear from them, and so, I agree. I agree, though, if we could figure out some way to monitor it, it would be it'd all be looked into that somehow, can we do it?
The one thing for Briar's Landing too is that the current, the big thing with it before we do anything too costly, is surveying of the property, because right now it looks like, the driveway is not on county property, it's on the neighbor's property. So we've got to figure that out and determine the actual entrance.
That was installed by DOT. We
Yeah.
did not install that.
Really?
Yep. DOT did that when they were redoing the whole road.
Yeah, when they built the bridges and all that, it was basically, it was basically where Snell would,
Yes.
modernization kind of work, work area. And it was in the right of way, and it was kind of cleaned up and done. But the other part of that is, I just remember from scout days and all that with the boys and all, it's just, I think to get additional use out of it, you need the partnership or the other side of the pair to put in, you know, somewhere way upstream or somewhere upstream, and then you get that collapse or whatever, you know, makes it a lot easier for.
I've been asked about that.
Church groups.
Which does be hard to,
You know, because if you don't, you're either parking on the side of the road and going, trying to find the spot, or you gotta work with somebody privately or work with one of those other groups. So maybe it's something we can work with the state. I don't know, the WMA up there or something.
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's a possibility because there's not much other else that you're gonna get from anybody.
And my thinking on this, not trying to get off the county books, but in a scenario like that, this ungoverned, this unmonitored, it's not manned, it's not manned, it's always gonna be problematic. And is this one of these things we need to, get off the normal way of thinking about it, look at other opportunities? So would we be better off so if we have these other groups, nonprofits that want to use it, maybe we subsidize their use of the existing stations that are along the river, you know, rather than us feeling like we have to own one. Are there other routes? We got to come up, if we are going to keep it, we got to come up with a way to monitor it, to manage it correctly. You know, having a second step, you know, if we got a place to put in, we don't have a place to come out. So we're not even a third of the way to the picture of what we have got to have this be something valuable to the county.
I'm honestly not even sure how the county ended up with it, other than, I mean, I know what occurred, but I don't know how the county ended up being responsible for that.
Terry, if I could address that question just a little bit for those of us that do have kayaks. One of the reasons that some scout groups and all like that is there's just downstream on an easy half day, 2/3 of the day float is another public place that you can take out, and that's why it becomes popular. And there's some other groups that are looking at a trail system through the Broad, and part of the Save the Broad folks can tell you all about it, of putting in even more for that very reason, so that you've got shorter distances for younger kids, and then you can bypass them, and us old folks can have shorter distances and that kind of stuff.
I'm glad I didn't know there was a takeout or another put in, so that definitely helps.
Yeah. There's a map, I think Victor might have a copy of it. And there may be one at Watson Mill, but there's a map of a group that's working on.
I know it's not completely unmanned though, because Shelley, y'all, Andrew and them goes and checks that.
We can go down there and check it. That's, as far as
you maintain it.
There's not someone there every day monitoring who comes in and comes out. So.
But to be honest, we don't have that on anything.
No.
The problem is late nights.
Yeah, you're right. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, it becomes a nice party place below the grade after hours, after kids and groups have taken them out.
That little parking lot. Definitely is.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So for Brewers Landing, we were talking about definitely doing some sort of fence around after surveying, seeing where the property lines are, and then installing new signage, something that stands out, as well as rules. And if now we know there is a takeout, there a map kind of showing this is where you're putting in, this is where you can take out, that sort of thing, for Briar's Landing. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to skip Standing Higher. We're going to come to it last. Memorial Park here, a lot of these things can be done fairly easily. And again, it's one of those projects that can be top of the list, kind of show the community that, you know, we are making changes and updating. So the gazebo needs to be repaired and painted. The railings are coming apart. We need some sort of new system for that, whether it's, Angela and I talked about maybe a metal system, so it's not us having to paint it all the time. and repair, deteriorating wood. Again, doing, fixing the signage. We do like the sign, but do we keep it? Again, do we go back to that cohesive signage for all of the facilities? Also installing a covered stage sort of area. This is very similar to like an amphitheater style, so that the park can be used for more things than just festivals and setting up tents. We would have a designated area for, a band or someone to come out, and so we have that designated area. As well as putting a walking sidewalk. So it would connect to the sidewalk that's already there on next to 29. That way it gives ADA accessibility. Because right now, if you are in a wheelchair or need assistance walking, it's really hard to get out there and walk through tents when there's festivals and everything, because there's just grass and holes or anything like that. You would have a designated area. So then the other thing that we have is figuring out how to either repave the parking lot or reline a better way the parking lot between the park and the old gym. It is in much need of servicing. So that is our other project that we have on there for that. Any other questions? Any questions on that?
A picture of the renovations is in the.
It is in the master plan.
In the master
So
plan.
Memorial Park
What that sidewalk deal looks like.
is essentially what we're asking for SPOS for Memorial Park is that picture that's in the plan for leisure services.
We actually talked about Memorial Park is one of those probably will get the most use from all, from all ages.
Mm-hmm.
So it really moved high up the list as far as prioritized, and especially for the cost too.
Any questions on Memorial Park?
Well, keep going.
All right, Brewer Phillips. Brewer Phillips, the thing with Brewer Phillips is not really too many issues. We do have a little bit of stormwater drainage that we can adjust, but also we have issues with ADA accessibility between the upper field and the lower field. You can see if you're at the park, there is only stair access from the concession stand in the bathrooms to the lower field. That's not ADA accessible. The parking for the lower field is for anyone who is handicapped. There is a parking spaces down at the lower next to the pavilion, but it is not paved. It's just, again, gravel, just kind of pull up the park where you want to. So we need to address that. We have talked about the playground that is down there. It is very outdated. It is the oldest playground that we have of any facility. And so some discussion would be that if we remove that playground, it would provide more area for us to have ADA parking. Now, it's not saying completely, get rid of it and never bring one back. We could bring one back eventually, but in a different location. Just where it's at right now is not the most feasible for the situation of trying to make the facility ADA accessible for everybody in both areas for that. So there is also there is a kind of a trail. Again, if you've been to Brewer Phillips and see from that upper, or from the parking lot next to the concession stand, there's a trail that circles the top. And from there's really no other direction as far as a trail to walk that facility. So we would like to try to make some sort of sidewalk system for that. Again, still going back to ADA. If we have that sidewalk system, have the ramp from the upper to lower, have the additional parking, having that sidewalk would allow someone who is parking at the lower pavilion to be able to access a field on the other side. So that's what we have for Brewer Phillips. Any questions on that real Lastly, well, before we get into Sammy Haggard, we have Cliff Mize. Cliff Mize is very, very used by our T-ball program, and travel teams that use our facilities. Again, same thing with that, a lot of stormwater fixing, drainage, redirecting of water. We have a lot of ditches that get made by all the water. So in fixing and repairing all the parking issues that we have, adding in additional parking. People are already parking. There's a second driveway past Mize Drive. There's a second driveway to Cliff Mize that people already come down and they park in the grass and behind the softball field. So we've talked with Alan about being able to grade that properly so that we can do another parking area. To start with, coming in and doing just gravel, setting it out so that we are designated that this is an area that they can park in instead of them just going and messing up the grass that's already there or anything like that. So adding new parking and defining those, trying to define those spaces. Also, new park signs. If you look really hard at Mize, there is actually no sign that states that it's Cliff Mize Park. The only sign that there is a concrete or granite arrow at 29 that points down there. So Mize Park doesn't actually have a park sign. So that is something that definitely needs to be added there with everything. Also, the restrooms there, simple things, just redoing painting, updating. They are single stalls, keeping that single stall, but just updating with all of that. So, any questions from us?
Tell me how many acres there are in that Cliff Mize Park. Alan, you got an idea?
I looked it up recently, I'll keep up with it. I want to say it was 7.
That's a big thing. What about Diamond Hill?
Oh.
Smaller, probably less than 5.
Diamond Hill's smaller.
Well, I think it's actually around 5 or 6. I think it's actually around 6, but a lot of it's down in the woods, down in the gully.
It is. It's down in the gully behind. There's more area for that.
I have to look on Keep Up.
So and here's the reason again, just trying to think through these long term rather than just short term. We're considering moving of the Road Park Cross Road and all that area then between Sammy Haggard and Brewer Phillips. Obviously, having all these off sites creates a problem for y'all maintaining travel equipment.
It does. Yes.
So think about the possibility, or would it be a good idea to take these off sites and put them on that facility that area that we're fixing to create as we move the road department? Consolidate all your parking, consolidate a lot of your facilities. It may be a better picture if we're looking at a good long-term solution.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know about the area. So in the master plan for Sammy Haggard for that for Allen's area, with that it's showing moving the maintenance shop that we have over to behind where Allen's the workshop is. So it'd be moving that, and then it's also showing because the community really wants a building, is adding a building there, a gym.
And I realize that what I'm talking about, that whole big picture hadn't been looked at like that. So we looked at the whole plan for the rec department, the whole master plan assumed still operating all different off-site locations. So just as a throw into thought process to see if there's a better way to do it, what are the possibilities of including all of this in one location?
We actually did.
I'm not looking for an answer.
No,
Here's a way to think about it.
No, I'm just, that's what I'm trying to think through that.
We actually did look at it that way also, and the reason it's broke out is because really the road department property is not very big. It's not near as big as conceptually.
And you also have that area between where the road department is and where Brewer Phillips.
Yes.
out there as well.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
pretty big area.
Well,
Yeah, but that
there's-
property isn't owned, it's owned by the Minishes, and they won't sell it.
Yeah, they won't touch
We
it. They said don't even call them yet.
yeah,
But
Not
anyway,
calling the other
so
insurance,
looking at that what we can use.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, adding one or two places, a building.
Yes.
And whatever. We're moving the road department primarily for parking. I mean, you're gonna have one or two buildings, but primarily it's parking. Because you have none now. And even if we pave the big grassy strip there, now where Strickland House was, it's already parking. And it's already full.
it is.
So when you add that extra building and add that other, you just took up what the road department actually sits on. Because it's a real narrow strip, believe it or not. It's only 1,000 foot wide by 3,000 or 4,000 foot deep before you go off in a gully on the backside. It's a mess. I know the theory behind it works for keeping everything on the same side of the road, but looking at it from 30,000 feet, you're not gaining much. Very, very little gain in the cost to go across the street, just to be honest. Looking at the big picture.
You're also looking at, moving the T-ball fields and making all of that parking too, right?
Yeah, that's gonna have to be something that's discussed, because the septic system's under the,
That's why it's there. All the septic
is
lines.
under the septic, T-ball. Yeah.
Yeah, but it can be done.
But yes,
Because
yeah.
the rec department is a very
That's in the
small
plan.
lift station, a very in-house lift station, can get you up to the sewer line at the splash
Right.
pad. And it's that, yeah, we'd actually talked about that too. But believe it or not, when we measured it off, when we counted the spaces, because we drew it out in the parking lot. I just took the image of the parking lot and moved it over top of the T-ball fields. I think we got about 40 more cars or something like that, 40. I think that was all we got out of that whole area.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot.
All I done was just take the parking lot and just imaged it down and counted individual parking places. Parking is the biggest issue.
Parking is the biggest issue at Sammy
Brewer
Haggard.
Phillips parking is horrendous.
Yes. I really wish essentially the most ideal space and the growth for the rec department is off of Brewer Phillips, where the Minish is owned, because it already backs up to property that is existing with the county. So it is the most ideal location, which would be able to, take the other parks that we have and put fields there and everything being in one location. Unfortunately, at this time, that's just not the way that they feel.
And I think probably 30, 40 years ago, when they split all these out, they were probably thinking about different areas that they were going to
Well, and a
serve.
lot of it was also from the American Legion, where the fields were already located.
Well, that's what Cliff Mice was. It was donated to us.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's originally.
we got it still listed under.
Well, it's, and a lot of people, I don't say a lot of people, but, from a planning standpoint, it's easy to drive by there now and say, oh, there's a bunch of parking spots. But it's that transition period between games.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have folks coming, folks that are already there,
Yeah.
and then folks that don't want to leave. I mean, you eat up a lot of space.
Yeah.
Just in parking, even just if you only got a couple games going, just because of that.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that helped was, and y'all did do a good job of this, is moving some of that away from the rec department.
Yeah, but
While
moving,
other things was going on, where we had soccer, T-ball, and something else going on at the same time. And so, okay, we're gonna move T-ball up the road, and that freed up the parking, and it freed up the people.
Yeah.
Strategically moving things on a calendar to other locations.
yeah, moving,
Tremendously.
Diamond Hill has been tremendous as far as moving games and activities there. It's freed up a lot of parking at Sammy Haggard. And then on the flip side, you see that Diamond Hill again doesn't have, because people are just parking wherever they want to, with no designated spaces, then you run into the issue of people parking on the side of the roads, and in that area right there is very dangerous for that. So I think, a parking problem is great to have, because you see that the community is using the facilities and people are coming out, but then also on the other side, safety. So, yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. The next thing is Sammy Haggard. So Sammy Haggard, we already have our Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for that. Trying to determine funding to match that grant, and also where to start on projects. That's a big thing. Where are we going to start? Well, first thing on that list is stormwater. And here recently, with all the rain that we've had, you can, if you're there at the park when it occurs, you can see the need for that stormwater drainage to be updated. We have puddles that start from the drain and will just go all the way down, well, the one at the office in particular. So the drain that's in front of the office, it'll be completely full and water is puddled all the way to behind the first base dugout, just where it's running down and running. And aside from the third base side, field 3, there's another drain right there, and it just puddles all the way up to field 2, just trying to get all that water out. So,
have you got any pictures of those? Those would be very helpful.
I do.
John,
I actually have video of all of that too.
That'd be very helpful for John when he's looking at that.
So Holly and I both took pictures here recently to just kind of show the issue that we have with everything just kind of filling up and not flowing correctly. Now, I will say that our upper fields, 1, 2, and 3, do drain a lot better than our lower fields, 4 and 5. They are absolutely horrible. They hold water so badly. But before anything else can be done at Sammy Haggard, that needs to be addressed. That's our biggest thing, is that drainage. Once that drainage is addressed, we can do the changes needed to the fields. We can add new facilities, update things, but that is our biggest thing, needing to address that. And then second to that is we do need a new sign. Again, going with the whole cohesion, bringing, right now, Sammy Haggard, the sign that we have is just that small marquee sign in the front. And it's supposed to be lighted, but you can't really tell that it is. And that's all we have. That represents Sammy Haggard Park. So that definitely needs to be updated. I know that Commissioner Dalton has talked about, and everybody in the community has talked about pickleball. So the pickleball courts definitely need to be updated. And it's the foundation, it starts with the foundation and all of its cracks, so it needs to be updated. I did put out get a company that we had looked at a couple of years ago about redoing it. We were talking about moving the Strickland house and maybe putting just a new facility there, just completely new, and then demoing what we currently have and accounting for parking and things like that. So I contacted them again to get a new quote for that. Got that quote back. It's about $600,000 to build, just start to finish, everything brand new.
That includes your basketball courts too, though?
Yep.
So that's the little area on the master plan.
Yeah, so the little area, so on the master plan, it actually shows it as individual facilities. This quote is by keeping it as one facility. It has 2 basketball courts and 6 pickleball courts, I believe, on it. And again, that's all, I mean, that could change if we wanted to do 4 pickleball courts and add another tennis court, that's doable. But as far as the size and the structure of everything, start to finish, new lighting, new everything, was $607,000. And I just got that quote last week when Alan was gone, so he hasn't had a chance to look at it. So that's kind of where we are with that facility. As far as everything else that goes with the Land and Water grant, we, after sitting down and going through this list, we do have SPLOST funding for the 2020 SPLOST that we still have, and I know it's been talked about using that money as part of a match for the Land and Water, but we'd also still like to use some of that money for certain projects. Again, to try to show the community that we do hear you. We are working towards getting these big projects done, but in the meantime, this is what we can do. So everybody can still be supportive of the department.
there a timeline on the land and water conservation? Was
2 years, right?
from,
2 years from October of last year.
so
Year and a half left.
So, yeah.
we gotta go.
Yeah. And I know, so we are waiting on that topo for Sammy Haggard to figure out about the.
And I've reached out to, New South and Associates and Nutter and Associates to do that GPR stuff. So I've heard back from Nutter and they're supposed to give me a quote. I did 2 phases, one immediately, right there where the courts are, and the second one where we expect to find things. So they're supposed to get that back to me too.
Yeah. So that's another thing that's gonna determine
The land and water.
what can be done.
The land and water, though, I mean, we should be able to.
You can do extensions.
Yeah, we can do extension
Yeah,
on
but I
that,
mean,
we just
because
gotta
it's
show
gonna be
that we
used
are
mainly
making.
For the water runoff, so I think we'll be able to stay in the time frame with that.
Yeah. And a lot of the land and water matching too can be done by the in-kind services, so labor from the county, or anyone else who provides those in-kind services. That does add up quite a bit, so.
Just make sure, and you're probably on top of it, but just make sure all the back-end documentation, like all the labor hours, fuel, all that, you got the GOS grant down, that stuff. I just said they're pretty particular about some of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Make sure we start correctly.
Yes, absolutely.
So the water management portion of it, is part of the plan for the correction also include the understanding of increasing the parking spaces, going to increase the volume of runoff.
Absolutely.
Yes, so that's where we kind of need to see where we are now, and then what can we do to.
So I've already, I sort of showed John that, where we potentially thought the parking was gonna go, how many feet of parking was gonna be a potential, so he could factor that into the equation of runoff, or at least, impervious surface, so. I think we got a pretty good grasp on it. Once the numbers come back, we'll be all right. About every single pipe is gonna be replaced, and the walking trails, all through that, because a lot of them, and there'll be actually new ditches cut. You know, a lot of times we put a pipe in where the flow of water went that's on our property, well, we actually should have turned that water on our property to a bigger pipe down the road. So we got this little spider web of nonsense, but
it works.
Yeah, it'll get better. It's gonna get a lot better, and, quickly. Go ahead to the next one.
That's
it?
the last one.
Questions, Commissioner Doster?
No, I mean, I know we got a lot of work to do out there, and, I mean, and not just you, but everything is, they leave it all short, and it's no fault of anybody's, it's just over time, things deteriorate, and community grows, and everybody remembers that it was, it was good enough 25, 30, 50 years ago, and nowadays we're paying the price because nobody, not ugly, it's just, it's just happening, because it's a lot easier to say, oh, we'll put that off to next week, just like a home, I'll paint it next year. Well, my budget catches up, and it's always something that gets in front of it.
Well said, sir. Commissioner Kirk?
No, I think that's good, and, when it's, like you said, it's just built up over time, and we definitely need to do some things, and, I guess the mindset in the past has been, it was figure out where you could cut and save money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for years and years, that was.
And we're still trying to figure out where you can cut.
And I mean, we still want to try to, use it well, but, it's now, where can we get some funding, and how can we better use those dollars? So I appreciate working on that, and as far as maybe we can get with the community talking about it, and maybe get, like you said, some of that like in kind help on some of this stuff. Be good.
And I've talked to I actually talked to someone last night who is very willing to, he's like, just give me a call, whatever I can try to do to help, so And so they are out there, individuals who want to help. It's just figuring out what can we do to.
Right. Yeah. We wanna make sure we go about it the right way and don't create a problem.
Yes.
By just.
I just say, yeah, you can do it. Help us with it.
Commissioner May? Good? Mr. Chandler?
Well, good job preparation. My concern about this one, and essentially all of them, a lot of them we dealt with just routine things. You know, we got police car, patrol car we'll have to replace, and fire equipment, those kind of things, routine. But as we look at projects like this, sewer up at Dogborough, I want to make sure we're not being short-sighted.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of that was talk about tying into sewer, you know, it's gonna fall on Dangersville.
Yeah.
That's the problem, we've been short-sighted in the past.
That's exactly right. That's why
Let's do this now and not think about where we're gonna be.
Yeah.
we have to spend a little more on
15 years
sewer
from now.
system to get that right.
Yeah.
We're far better off to do that.
Better to go ahead and do it now than to worry about it.
Well, in closing the splosh talk, we still got one more budget item we have to do, but I just want to close with this and say that I'm very proud of the staff that's done these preparations. We're ahead of the game by doing it now, even though it's coming. Christina being so, we need to get on this right now because we don't want it to wait till the last minute. But also the foresight that we've had from the people in the conversations from all the different departments, trying to look at this not in just a 3-year, 5-year, but looking at it as a 10 to 15 year, but still trying to do that in the cost measures that we can, knowing that we take a bite at a time, a big bite at a time, will eventually get us where we want to be, and having what I feel some of the best people in the places that it needed to be, you know, like bringing on Paul to LTC. Huge difference. It's a different mindset. Rodney, you know, and Alan and you and Ambria, it's been really good, but I'm gonna tell you guys, it has been tough on a few of us, ain't it, Christina?
No, I'm starving.
Yeah, but just putting all this together is so much more, because it's coming in from 5 different directions, but it's got to be compiled here.
Yeah.
And then we're taking those questions back to 5 different people, or actually, I mean, on that list, 11 different people, saying, break it out this way, break it out that way, and then recomprising it again, and then sit down. A lot goes on behind the scenes on this, but I got to say thank you to everybody involved, all 11 of those presenters today. They've been talked to 20 times apiece, where we just saw them today once.
Yes.
So, good job to every one of those guys.
The
Now,
other request I make, just in general for all the departments and for all of us, is not to assume that the way we're doing it today is the best way to do it.
Right.
Always be looking for opportunities for us to provide better service, even if it looks entirely different from the way that we're doing it now. Be looking for those opportunities.
I think Alan's heard me say this, Commissioner Chandler, for 4.5 years. Well, that's what we've always done. I said, how do we know we done it right the first time?
Right.
So I say it all the time. My favorite statement. How do you know you're doing it right the first time? All right. Thank you, and we're going to move on to item 12. It's consider approving a budget amendment for 2024. Gentlemen, I think everybody's aware of this one. Maybe not.
Yes.
Yeah, never mind, I am. So I just need an official motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the budget items. All this, the budget adjustments for the 2024 budget.
Yes, sir. I have a motion by Commissioner Kirk. I have a second. Second by Commissioner May. Any discussion on this item, gentlemen? Hearing none?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Any statements or remarks or comments from commissioners?
Well, I can't stop myself.
Okay, go ahead.
Thinking, going back to what Commissioner Johnson said, just it's information or for consideration, and I don't know, I'll open up a can of worms. But the idea of there's so many needs in trying to do, and say two ways to look at it. If you try to stay within your lane and your budget considerations as you move forward, you almost never get there. But at the end of the day, if we know we have some large projects that we want to identify and move on and get, and make them 50-year facilities, don't get me wrong, it's not, you know, just to get past something, but if they're looking at a 50-year facility, you know, combine and say that, you know, moving the road department, all facilities on the other side, you know, building the gymnasium and getting that started and really getting a good kick off of that, and then be able to preserve some of these other SPLOST funds for other needs is, you know, do we need to put a package plan together and see what bonding those out? You know, if you bond $15-20 million and then pay it off over 20 years, and I know you pay interest on it, I get that, but at the end of the day, it's probably not going to outlast inflation, and it's going to be done within the first 5-6 years, and then you're on the backside of 30-40 years of enjoying it. And, you know, I'm not the finance person, so, you know, I'm just going to guess, don't quote my numbers, but, you know, if you borrowed $15 million, 5-6% of a government bond, you know, over 20 years, you're probably looking at, what, $1 million a year of payment. That's what a meal.
Yeah, I can tell you for daily operations, the amount of land and buildings the government needs to operate is ridiculous. I mean, even just this building itself, even just if you look at just the court system, you look at just the rec department, like you said, there's so many things that the board, and I would say in the next 5 to 8 years, we'll be looking at an annex building. I don't know that we would make it another 5 years. It'd be very, very hard to.
Yeah, and you are dead right in your thought process there. I think SPLOST is not for that. I think the bonds are, and I think in order to get to that bonding process and to actually knock a complete item, finish it, start to finish, the bond is the only way that we're going to do it. We're never going to piecemeal it together over the next 2 cycles of SPLOST or T-SPLOST. So you are right, and you nailed it, because we've already talked about this as far as what is it going to take to get us there, and I'm glad that the board recognizes that. Both of you know, had that same thought process. I do think you're going to be $1.5 million, $2 million road department move. You're going to be $10 million rec department facilities, and I think that's going to be on the bond. I don't know any other way that we can accomplish it. And it come to fruition anyway, at least in my lifetime. But I think this board considered an example with it, and I do think we didn't have that plan. I think we need to move forward with that thought process.
And I think, you know, there's probably some economies of scale of doing them together.
Yeah. One thing I'm scared of, and it is going to come faster than I think we're ready for it, and that is the court system. The court system is changing. We're going to be looking at a new courthouse. We're going to be looking at a courthouse preferably just for them. It's coming. It's coming fast. It's already in legislation, the court expansions, and they're placing the burden on us. The state is putting it on the counties. I'm not happy, but it's coming. Elbert County just made a move that shocked me. They're now, probate judge is the magistrate judge. Shocking. Technically, the magistrate judge, and I'm not saying he would, because we've got a good one. We've got great people. He could deem that all his secretarial work goes to the clerk of court. Now she's got to hire 4 more people. And she has to have all the record keeping and all the files. But the state is changing every day. And we're sitting here today, to be honest, we done it yesterday with Eddie. We're out of room with some offices and trying to figure out how we're going to piecemeal that together. That's sort of what Tracy, and it's a talk for a different discussion for a different day, but I don't think we'll be meeting in this room January 1, 2026. this will be offices. And we're talking about how to make that happen, and I think we've got an idea. We're just gonna hone in on it and then present it to you guys. It's like, what do you think? We try to do as much legwork behind the scenes as we possibly can, because we know all of you work, and you all work hard. But anyway, with that, Commissioner Doster.
Move to adjourn.
There you go, buddy. Caleb, if I don't see a 12-page report, you're fired. No, I'm just kidding. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yep, it's gonna be a long one, but I can do it.
I think it'll be a good one, though, man. You do a really good job. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Should move to allow people to go eat. That was appropriate.
You angry? It's not out of spam. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Lloyd.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, you're welcome, you're welcome.
How you doing?
Doing good. One of the answers to your question